Chapter 26. Danger. Seidaso smelled danger. But read the bomb, just a ball of air. Seidaso doesn't freeze, can't see. Pfft. Seidaso dodged the point. The bullet hit Seidaso's shoulder. A bloody arrow splashed out. The host was stunned. What happened just now? Seidaso player was injured suddenly. What did player Richard do? Is that the recorder? Wait, I see. The host's eyes lit up. This Richard player has also mastered his special abilities. Seidaso's ability is the invisible left hand. And this Richard's ability is an invisible bullet. Richard's mouth twitched. God is such an invisible bullet. This is just an ordinary reading bullet, not worthy of such a tall name. However, the host's words made Seidaso calm down. I didn't expect you to be like us. Seidaso gave Richard a deep look. You are not a pure newcomer, you have mastered this ability. Who taught you this? The so-called rookie killer is someone who only dares to stare at the rookie. For Hisoka, Hwashi Dolang, they never dared to provoke them. And now, see Richard's special abilities. Seidaso was stunned in an instant. Realvelt and Giddo outside were thankful and looked at each other. Fortunately, it's Seidaso. This kid is not an ordinary person. Richard noticed the look in Seidaso's eyes, and suddenly became a little less interested. Today's game, Richard is for Chris. Avenge Chris. Richard is ready to play a good fight and let Chris out. Result. It's only been such a round, and Seidaso is cowardly. But today Seidaso must die. With Seidaso's character, he will suffer again, and he will definitely admit defeat. Then, I will not give him this chance to admit defeat. Richard raised his recorder. Seidaso, go to hell and make amends with Chris. Use Korjin, strengthen the tongue. A dark shadow swept towards Seidaso. In an instant, he came to Seidaso. Call out. With one click, it wrapped around Seidaso's neck. Seidaso couldn't breathe right away. However, basic sanity, Seidaso still maintained. Controlling himself, the arm formed by the condensed gigantic thoughts grabbed towards Korjin's strengthened tongue. But nothing worked. Seidaso's strength is not as good as Korjin's death thought. There is absolutely no way to break free. I think. Richard narrowed his eyes. Want to admit defeat? No way. Chris can't die in vain. Today, you must die. A thought bomb flew out of the recorder. Use burrows, read the bullet. A touch of bright red appeared between Seidaso's eyebrows. Even with the protection of Chi, Seidaso still couldn't stop Richard's thoughts. Fragmented skull. The nudge went directly into Seidaso's mind. Blast the brains up. Seidaso's eyes widened. With an expression of disbelief. Seidaso never imagined that he would die here. A deep sense of unwillingness filled Seidaso's heart. My goal has not yet been achieved. Your life has only just begun. Status, money, all will come soon. Why? Why are you so unfortunate? Boom. Seidaso's figure fell heavily. Richard took the recorder back. The winner, Richard. Richard looked out the window, the direction Chris died that day. Chris, rest in peace. Seidaso, I've killed, avenged you. Richard stepped off the ring. In the sky arena, death is a normal thing. Even killing Seidaso, Richard would not have any trouble. A figure looked at the battle situation on the screen and withdrew his gaze. Hisoka is not interested in Richard. The nun used by Richard is, in Hisoka's opinion, too crude. Not interested. The manipulator's ability actually uses the bullet as the main attack method. Hisoka shook his head, feeling that this was a complete waste of talent. However, this is exactly the effect Richard needs. Disguised as a manipulator or a transmuter. But these are just external manifestations. Richard's real department is the trait department. An ability, not these, but crazy Sonata. That's Richard's real reliance. Hwashi Dolang's eyes flickered. The recorder just disappeared suddenly again. For sure, this is Richard's nun. No one cares about Seidaso's death. Even Giddo and Realvelt dare not go to Richard to avenge Seidaso, and it is too late to avoid Richard. As for the members of the Dazuo Association, even their presidents are not opponents, how could they be? Dazuo Association, disbanded. Into the other two agreements. The Giddo Association, and the Realvelt Association. Richard saw Hwashi Dolang waiting at the door of his room. Richard. Hwashi Dolang hesitated. Go ahead and talk about it. Richard took Hwashi Dolang into the room, took a sip of water, and then sat down on the sofa. Please sit down. Hwashi Dolang nodded and sat down opposite. Asterisk. Chapter 27. You want more information on Nen, don't you? Yes. About the mind, there are a total of 4 basics, namely entanglement, that is, wrapping qi around the body to ensure that these qi will not be lost casually, wasting one's life energy. Second, refining, extracting more qi from one's own body. Third, absolutely, shut down aura nodes and disguise yourself as a normal person. The fourth one is hair. What's your hair? Hwashi Dolang hesitated for a moment. It's the fist of the tiger bite. What about other than that? No, but I'm considering a new ability. Richard knew that at this time, Hwashi Dolang should be thinking about the ability to practice avatars. This is the disadvantage of the wild road. I don't even know which way to go. Let's not consider the new ability. Do you know your department? Farewell. Sure enough, I don't know, no wonder I practice in the wrong direction. Let's test it first. Richard took a glass of water, handed it to Hwashi Dolang, and said, cover your hands on both sides of the cup and use the lien. Hwashi Dolang nodded. A burst of strong energy was released from Hwashi Dolang's hand. The next moment, I saw that the water in the cup increased at a speed visible to the flesh and overflowed from the cup. So amazing. It's time to stop. Richard said, it means that your class is enhancer. What is an enhancer? Hwashidoru asked. Enhancer, literally means, to strengthen something, it can be to strengthen one's own body, it can be to strengthen a weapon, and to strengthen recovery and healing capabilities. The third one, you definitely won't choose. Then, what you need to consider is the first two. If you don't have a favorite weapon, then strengthening your body is the best choice. Richard paused. Tiger Bite Fist, you can continue to use it, the impact is not very big, but don't develop the rest of the messy abilities, just keep strengthening your body. The representatives of Enhancer are Yuvajin and Gon. Both of them are taking the route of strengthening their bodies. One is the whole body. As for Gon, the first consideration is fists. That's all I have to say. This is my suggestion for your future route. It's up to you whether you listen or not. Richard didn't say more. The two are just one-on-one. Richard just felt that Hwashi Dolang was a pity, and read the reminder before Hwashi Dolang. I see, Richard, thank you. You're welcome. Richard waved his hand. You don't have to follow the line I say, it's okay, but if you do it the way I say, then I need you to promise one thing. What? In the future, do me a favor when you can. Hwashi Dolang just hesitated for a moment, and then agreed immediately. As long as it doesn't violate the principles. Can. Seeing Hwashi Dolang leave, Richard retracted his gaze. Look out the window. It's time to get out of here. Come to Sky Arena, my purpose has been achieved. And my overall strength has also been upgraded from D level to C level. The next step is to take the Hunter exam. Get the advanced skills of Nen. Richard looked down at the recorder. As a matter of fact, the abilities of Corkin, Bross, Johnson, these 3 people are not enough for me now. It's not that the type of ability is not good, but the intensity of reading is not enough. I'm a trait type, and I can only have 40% of the transformation efficiency of Transmuter, but if I use the bullet, it will be stronger than Bro's bullet. Crazy Sonata is really strong, but the stronger the Nen, the more limited it is. It's the Nen rule. It takes enough time for the Mad Sonata to work. It's time for me to develop my second Nen into the night. Richard closed his eyes. A deep sea. Faint fluorescence flickered on the seabed. A huge creature appeared in front of Richard. The tentacles sway with the water. A murmur surrounded the surroundings. No creature dared to approach. This time, Richard calmed down a lot, seriously observed the creature in front of him. Sudden. The giant creature opened its eyes. A faint light overflowed from the opponent's eyes. A blister, slowly, floated to Richard. Boom, suddenly exploded. Richard felt that something had entered his body. A different kind of thing. It was very similar to when he first awakened Nen. The next day. Richard opened his eyes. Second Nen, done. Richard thought for a moment. A picture scroll appeared in Richard's hands. The more thoughts you use, the longer the scroll will be. You can defend, you can attack. And the content painted on it also has the ability to stimulate biological desires, especially greed. It can make the creatures inside have hallucinations. Named, Picture Scroll of Greed. Asterisk. Chapter 28. Richard thought about it, and immediately, the picture was unfolded. As Richard used the more and more syllables, the length of this picture scroll is getting longer and longer. One circle, another circle. The whole room was filled. Picture of Greed. Richard imagined the use of this ability. The first one is to use the picture scroll to entangle and bind the enemy. The second is to surround yourself and block the enemy's attack. The third is to create a picture scroll maze. These three methods of use, no matter which one they are, can be used in conjunction with the Mad Sonata, which is extremely complementary to my current strength. My overall strength has improved a lot. Moreover, this picture scroll, like a recorder, can absorb the thought of death. Richard embodied the recorder. Two groups of thoughts of death floated from the recorder. It's Johnson and the lizard. The thoughts of death of these two people have no special effect in the recorder. Can't be like Burroughs and Calkin. The perfect ability to disguise as a recorder. The abilities of Johnson and Lizard must come out of the recorder in order to be perfectly exerted. But when Johnson and Lizard entered the picture of greed, the situation was different. The thoughts of death of Johnson and Lizard can enter the scroll at any time, exit from the scroll, and travel through the scroll. This means, as long as Richard turns the scroll into a labyrinth form, then, the death thoughts of Johnson and Lizard can attack the enemy in the labyrinth. With the help of the picture scroll, his own strength will be stronger. The current me, the amount of chi, may be a little worse than the average sea level Nin. However, in terms of overall strength, among the sea levels, it can be ranked in the forefront. Because most Nin people will be restrained by my ability. These two abilities, for others, are very strange and difficult to guard against. When Richard thought about it, the scroll and the recorder disappeared. These two abilities of mine are related to desire. The Sonata of Madness is madness. The picture of greed is greed. According to the rules of Nin, the stronger the Nin, the greater the restriction, while the Sonata of Madness and the picture scroll of greed, the restriction conditions are all time, and it takes time to activate. However, compared to the strength of these two abilities, this restriction is still a little small. Richard thought of a possibility. My ability comes from that behemoth in the deep sea. Maybe it's a part of the restriction that was endured by this creature. Richard didn't think much of it. The creature, what it was, what secrets it was hiding, these were things Richard wanted to know. However, investigation is required, and mere guesswork is meaningless. Take the hunter exam first, learn Nin's high-level skills, and then collect information about the Dark Sonata. In the Yukiksen incident, there is a person who knows. Kareka's teammate, Melody. A man who was ruined by the Dark Sonatas, or accomplished. If you let the Melody choose, you will definitely regret listening to the Dark Sonata. But the power of the Melody, to a large extent, comes from the Dark Sonata. There is no doubt about that. Richard looked out the window. It's time to leave. Richard packed his luggage. There are not many things, just 2 sets of clothes, some food, and money. When he came to the Sky Arena, Richard brought 20 million yuan, and now it has become a little more, because Richard has won a lot of games. The higher the floor, the higher the bonus. Except for the 200th floor and above. Above 200 floors, no bonuses are set. In name, it is purely a fight for honor. Enter the elevator. Such a coincidence. Richard smiled. I didn't use the elevator very often, but recently, I met Maggie in the elevator. I have to say, it was quite a coincidence. Are you leaving? Maggie saw the luggage Richard was carrying. Bon voyage. Thanks. 2 figures, standing on the 200th floor, looking down, seeing Richard's back leaving, he breathed a sigh of relief. It's Guido and Real Velt. Fortunately Richard didn't know about our relationship with Seidaso, and our original plan. Yes. I thought it was a newcomer, but I didn't expect it to be so strong. Not far away, separated by a few rooms. Huashi Dolang also looked down. Richard, I believe you, I hope what you said is true. After that, Huashi Dolang withdrew his sight. Hisoka, when I finish my practice, next time, I will challenge you again. At that time, it wouldn't necessarily be me who lost. Hwashidoru was very unwilling to lose to Hisoka last time. Richard didn't leave the city right away. Instead, he entered a pub first. Hunter exam passes are not only available from Whale Island, they can be obtained from many places. Sky Arena is not close to Whale Island. With Richard's strength, there is no need to make this trip. Many eyes turned to Richard. But just for a moment, it moved away. Richard came to the bar. Sit down. Give me a glass of ale. Okay, sir. Richard took a sip. Then look at the waiter. I need information on this year's Hunter exam. Asterisk. Chapter 29. To what extent? The route to the first examination room. 200,000 rennies. Richard took out the cash directly. Go to the back, this is the place to drink. Richard nodded. Walk in from the side passage. It's a secret room. It's 200,000 rennies. Richard handed the money over and said, I need the route for the first exam room of this year's Hunter exam. A head sticks out from under the table. Is a middle-aged man. Fat man. Just the route of the first exam room. That's right. More, Richard doesn't need it. Because more information is useless. Richard didn't think that with his own strength, he couldn't pass the Hunter exam. After all, even Gon, Kurapika, Leorio, and Bakuer have passed. Richard was much stronger than when they passed the exam. Right here. The middle-aged fat man handed over a map. On the map, it's at the red dot sign. Richard glanced at it, earning it in his arms. Guaranteed to be accurate. Not guaranteed. The middle-aged fat man glanced at Richard and said, Your Excellency is taking the Hunter exam for the first time. The location of the Hunter exam will change every year. We got the news from the inside, and there is probably a probability of more than 80%. Richard frowned. The rules of the Hunter exam, Richard knows some. The location of the exam is determined before the exam. Because of the location. Not just anywhere, you can test. Be prepared in advance. If this middle-aged fat man was really a staff member who assisted the Hunter Association in screening, then he wouldn't be unaware of the real location of the examination room. Wouldn't say something like 80% probability. Most likely, a liar. Really, our news is already very accurate. If you go to other places, there is no such probability at all. Richard nodded. I see. Immediately, Richard got up and left. A man came out next to him, looked at the middle-aged fat man, and showed a smile. Did you fool another one? That's not. The middle-aged fat man was a little proud and said, These people are really deceiving. Every year is a good opportunity to make money. I don't know the information about the Hunter exam. I don't even know what Hunter is. But it doesn't matter. I've deduced some from their population who want to take the test. This Hunter is probably a profession. You have to take an exam before you can get a license. And the location of the exam is different every year. It's hard for ordinary people to get. I just need to make up a random location. Even if it's wrong, it doesn't matter. Anyway, I have already told them in advance that the location I gave cannot be guaranteed to be completely correct. They have no reason to blame me. But I have been doing it for so many years, and no one has come to trouble me. The middle-aged fat man paused. This money deserves to be earned by me. Suddenly, the middle-aged fat man found that the expression of the man opposite was frozen. What's wrong? The middle-aged fat man felt that something was wrong and turned around quickly. Then I saw Richard. Richard didn't leave at all. When the middle-aged fat man said the 80% probability, Richard felt that the middle-aged fat man had a very high probability and was lying. I was joking just now. The middle-aged fat man forced a smile. Richard looked at the middle-aged fat man and said nothing. The map I gave you is real. The middle-aged fat man rolled his eyes and said, My news is indeed true. As long as you go, but the test location changes, you come back and I will refund you. Go back now. Now? Impossible. The middle-aged fat man shook his head. You've already got the map, and you want me to refund the money now, that's impossible. The middle-aged fat man's face sank. I didn't take advantage of it like this. I promised to change the location and give you a refund, which is sincere enough. This is my place. Richard smiled. Is this the confidence of the middle-aged fat man? However, he had no idea who he was provoking? Richard raised his hand. What are you going to do? But before the middle-aged fat man finished speaking, Richard had already mentioned it. Stuck in throat and pressed against the wall. I ask you, you answer, lie and I'll kill you. Another person bypassed Richard's back, lifted the stool and smashed at Richard. But he was kicked by Richard. It just flew out. He hit the wall and went straight into a coma. I said. The middle-aged fat man was scared to death. Too fast. Almost unimaginable. The middle-aged fat man didn't even have time to take down the gun in the drawer. At this time, the middle-aged fat man knew that he had kicked the iron plate. Richard's strength is simply not something he can fight against. How many people have you deceived so far? On a 1? I heard it clearly just now. You do this, but you have been doing it for several years. 6, just 6. Still telling the truth. Richard increased the strength in his hands. 16, really, I really didn't lie this time, my lord. The middle-aged fat man's voice was already a little crying. 1-200,000, pay me 3.2 million Junny, I can spare your life, otherwise. 3.2 million? That's too much. I pay. Asterisk. Chapter 30. Richard was not in a good mood, even though he took back 3.2 million rennies from the middle-aged fat man. But taking money is more of just wanting to breathe a sigh of relief. What Richard really cares about is not money. This money is not much to Richard. What Richard wanted was the hunter exam, the correct location for the exam. Getting the information about the hunter exam from the tavern is indeed something I took for granted. In this world, hunter's information is very closed to ordinary people. Sudden. A young man walked up to Richard. You want information about the hunter exam room? Richard turned his head and looked at each other. A youth. A martial artist's attire. Richard was a little impressed. One of the people in the tavern before may have overheard the conversation between himself and the bartender. You know. That's right. The youth nodded and said, I will participate in the Hunter Association this time. Well, I will give you a test. As long as you pass, I will share my information with you. As a condition, I hope that we can cooperate during the test. What test? A test of ability. The youth said, if you can't even pass my test, then it's pointless for you to take the hunter test. How do you prove that your information is true? Richard looked at the young man and said, I can't play with you for nothing. The young man frowned. Since you know about the hunter exam, then, let me tell you about the role of the hunter license. A hunter license can get a mortgage loan of up to 100 million yen. This Richard remembers. Gon and Killua wanted to do this when they went to Yokiksen. What test are you going to do? Have a fight with me. Sight. Go outside, just find an open space. Richard nodded. This person, Richard is not impressed. Then it won't be as strong. And Richard didn't see Nan's breath in this person. In every sense, this man would not be Richard's opponent. The two entered a forest. Just here. The young man stopped. Let's start, you attack first. Row. Next moment. Richard took a stride and came to the front of the youth. Boom. One punch. Richard deliberately controlled his strength and speed without revealing his full strength. But even so, the young man still shrank his pupils, showing a surprised expression. Boom. The young man blocked his hands in front of him. The figure involuntarily retreated. So fast, so strong. The young man's eyes lit up. You passed, I approve you. The youth said excitedly, as long as the two of us cooperate, the chances of us passing the hunter exam this time will become very high. Last time, I was defeated by a team. How many levels have you passed? Second pass. Richard nodded and said nothing. According to the normal process, there are at least 6 levels in the hunter exam. This person is only in the second pass, and he is still far from passing the exam. The hunter exam is still a month away. How about our special training this month? Anyone else? 2 more. Richard hesitated, then nodded in agreement. Richard doesn't like the level of these people. But in the first place, the hunter exam information is in the hands of these people. Second, Richard has nothing else to do. Come with me. As the young man walked, he said, I don't know what your name is. My name is Jalaya. Richard. Not long after, a small courtyard appeared in front of the two of them. This is the yard that my team rented. The three of us usually live here. If you don't mind, you can live here like us. It's not far from the training ground. There are all kinds of training equipment, which is very convenient. Richard nodded. Gloria pushed open the door. Two figures appeared. A tall, muscular man. The other is a woman. He was small and wore a strange hat. Cocky, very round, very large. Richard remembered a name. Pens. Immediately afterwards, Goliath introduced, "This is Sancho, this is Pensy." Richard frowned slightly. It really is. I guessed right. This girl named Peng Si appeared in the hunter exam. Her main ability is to control bees to obtain information. She is a good intelligence officer. It's a pity that Hunter joined Bakur's team after the exam. While investigating NGL, I came across Chimera Ants. Was eaten directly. And it wasn't eaten by the queen. The one who ate Peng Si was just a miscellaneous soldier. Therefore, Peng Si didn't even have the chance to be reincarnated. This is Richard, he's very good, and I've invited Richard to join our team, Goliath said. This hunter exam, I believe, with the strength of the four of us and our sincere cooperation, we will definitely be able to pass it smoothly. Sancho held out his hand to Richard. Richard, welcome. Pleasant to work with. Richard found that this team, like Glaya, Sancho, and Pence, didn't know each other for a long time. It seems that not long ago, the team was just formed. Asterisk. Chapter 31. Pence gave Richard a look. Intuitively, I feel that Richard seems to be different. The next day. To the training ground. Let's determine the division of labor first, said Goliath. First of all, you, Peng Si, your ability is to control bees, so during the exam, you will collect the intelligence content. This task is very important. The second, it's me. Gregory pointed to himself. I am the commander of the team. In addition, I am also responsible for protecting Pensy. Richard, Sancho. You two are responsible for the attack. Do you all agree with such an allocation? Richard, Sancho, Pence, nodded at the same time. This distribution is not a problem. But it's hard to say if anyone has other thoughts. Richard has observed it. Gloria's level is not much better than ordinary people. Judging by the Sky Arena, it would not exceed 100 floors. Richard can easily kill Goliath without reciting. And Sancho? On the surface, it looks very strong. But Sancho's muscles are fake. Not really through my own exercise, but seems to be stimulated by some kind of drug. It just looks intimidating. The actual combat power is not as good as Glaya. Richard glanced calmly at Pence's side. Pence also seemed to sense the grief of Goliath and Sancho. Noticing Richard's gaze, Pence looked over. The eyes of the two met, and they both understood the meaning of each other's eyes. That is, if Goliath and Sancho really can't support the wall with mud, then let go of them both. A new team is formed by Richard and Pence. Gloria was in high spirits. Richard is doing his own training. About the practice of mindfulness. There are two main sources of thought. Point one is the energy of the body, to put it simply, physical energy. The other is mental energy, for example, will. Physical training, Richard does every day. Regular training, a good diet, and physical fitness will naturally go up. But in terms of spirituality, different people have different ways of improving. Richard remembers. The president of the Hunter Association, Netero, is standing on the snow alone, punching constantly. Day after day, year after year. After that, it suddenly became clear. Realize something that belongs to you. Since then, he has become the strongest human being in the world. None of them. Unfortunately, when facing Chimera Ants, Netero has become weak due to time, and his real strength may only be 1/5 of the peak period. But even so, the Ant King can still be forced to that extent. This is enough to prove the tyranny of Netero. Richard fell silent. A person, sitting cross-legged on the ground. Involuntarily, some images appeared in Richard's mind. Deep sea. Endless. Ocean currents surge. A burst of inaudible murmurs seemed to come from the void. Pence looked towards Richard. Richard in this state gave Peng Si a very subtle feeling. Richard opened his eyes. It does seem to work. The power of the mind is the power of the mind. Will, thinking, courage, responsibility. Wait, these are spiritual powers. Richard felt that the amount of his chi had increased, and the effect seemed to be better than simple physical training. At this rate, a month later, when the hunter exam begins, my chi level can reach the mid to high level of C rank. Equivalent to Flake Lev, Nobunaga, Finks among Phantom Troupe. However, I will be stronger than them. Because of my ability, the possibility is higher than their ability. Soon, a month has passed. Gloria is confident. Guys, it's time for the hunter exam. Now let's go to the first test site. Come on. We must pass this exam. I believe we will pass. Richard had no objection to Gloria. The captain's responsibility, Gloria took on it very well. But the problem is that Gurley is weak. Because his own strength is too weak, even if Richard wants to help Gloria, he can't help. Hunter exam, there is a single project. Goliath was doomed to fail. Goliath took out 4 airship tickets. Not long after, the 4 came to the airship. Go to the city where the first hunter exam site is located. Richard closed his eyes. Peng Si was by the window. Adjacent to Richard. Goliath and Sancho sat on the other side. Richard, what's your plan? Richard glanced over at Goliath. If you can, take it as much as possible. If it really doesn't work, then we'll give up the 2 of them. I must pass the hunter exam this time, and I don't want to do it again. Pensy nodded. That's what I think too. Close your eyes and rest for a while. Before entering the first test room, there may be some tests. The airship fell silent. Sudden. Boom. A shot rang out. Suddenly everyone was awakened. I saw several people with their heads covered standing in the aisle with guns in their hands. Hand over all your valuables. Asterisk. Chapter 32. Richard, are we going to do it? Do not. Richard shook his head and said, Hunter's test has already begun. Glia's news is only about the city we are going to. There is no more specific news. Originally, our plan was to inquire about the news after arriving in that city. But the operation of the Hunter Association is a little earlier than we expected. This is one of the channels for releasing news. These robbers are pretending, not real robbers, so they can only be one of the testers of the Hunter exam, and we have to make the right response to get the exact information from them. Exam room information. Richard looked at Glia and Sancho across the aisle. Getting ready to remind. But this time, it was too late. Sancho pounced on one of the robbers. Boom. But not the opponent of the robber. Directly hit the chin with a punch from the opponent. He fell to the ground, unconscious. A robber brought a rope and tied Sancho up. Humph! How dare you play tricks? Court death! After speaking, the robber dragged Sancho out. After that, everyone heard a gunshot. Richard lowered his voice. Sancho is not dead. Not only because Richard judged the robbers to be fake, but Richard also sensed Sancho's breath of life. Gloria was nervous. Hunter's exam has not yet started, and as a result, one of his teammates is missing first. Moreover, the threat of robbers is still there. How to do? Gregory was a little flustered. Most of the confidence I had before had disappeared at once. Glia, be quiet. Richard. Be quiet, listen to me, and don't do anything superfluous. Gloria nodded. Now Glia has no better choice but to trust Richard. Richard looked away. Peng Si, what are you going to do? Pensy hesitated. This test should be the performance of a qualified hunter when we face similar situations. First of all, doing nothing is absolutely impossible. But to fight against the robbers, you must ensure certain conditions. You cannot fail to subdue the robbers, but instead let the robbers hurt people, whether it is yourself or ordinary passengers. Because then it's better to do nothing. Under the condition of ensuring the lives of ordinary passengers, the robbers will be subdued. Our strategy and strength must reach this level to meet the requirements for the first examination room of the Hunter exam. Richard nodded. Good. There are 3 robbers now. In addition to these 2 in the aisle, there is another one, who is guarding the outside. It's not easy to subdue 3 robbers at the same time. Pensy's eyes moved. I can use my bees, harass them, and if they get distracted, we can do it. Fine, just do it. With Richard's strength, there is no need to be so troublesome at all. As long as Richard makes a move, he can instantly eliminate all three of them, but now is not the time to reveal his strength. Also, Richard wanted to test Peng's. Peng Si's ability is a very good intelligence officer. Richard has plans to form his own team. Peng Si is an option. In this hunter exam, Richard is going to give Peng Si a test. If Peng Si meets Richard's requirements, then Richard will recruit Peng Si into his team. Professor Penston. Several bees flew out of Peng's hat. The vibration of the wings sounded. Peng controlled the bees and flew over to several robbers. Surrounded by the robber's head. The robbers got nervous. Humans are such strange things. Obviously, the strength of the robbers is far stronger than that of honey, but they are still afraid of honey. Go away. One of the robbers couldn't help waving, trying to drive the bees away. But at this moment, Richard moved suddenly. Peng Si, do it. The two shot at the same time. One after the other. Originally, the plan of the two was that Richard would solve two and Peng would solve one. But at this moment, another person suddenly jumped out. A small one. Wearing a floppy hat. Short orange hair. Is a teenager. There is also a quiver behind him. Richard's pupils shrank slightly. A name entered Richard's mind. Explosive Library. Maybe, Bakuer and Peng Si met on the airship this time. And there is no Glaya, probably because Glaya has been eliminated in this robbery test. 3 shot. In an instant, all 3 robbers fell. Stop. A uniformed person hurried out from inside. Thank you 3 for solving the robbers, leave the rest to us. Several people walked out of it and took the 3 robbers away. After that, another person came in. It was the 3 of you who solved the robbers just now. Our captain wants to meet you and thank you personally. Please come with me this way. Goliath looked at Richard. Richard. Richard gave Glaya a reassuring gesture. A middle-aged man looked at Richard and the 3. The 3 previous robbers were standing next to the middle-aged man. A calm expression on his face. The middle-aged man smiled. This is a test, and congratulations to all 3 of you, you all passed the test. Asterisk. Chapter 33. Next, I will tell you about the hunter exam, the first exam room. Conspicuous place, hidden place. Just a word. That's right, that's it. The middle-aged waved his hand, signaling to see off the guest. The airship is about to land, you go back first. The 3 returned to their respective seats. Bakuer lowered his head in thought. Pence looked at Richard. Unsurprisingly, now Pence has given priority to Richard's opinion. Subconsciously, Pence has accepted that Richard is more powerful than her. Richard, what do you mean by that? We'll talk later. Soon, the airship landed. Gloria couldn't wait to come over. Richard, Pence, what happened just now? Just now is the test of the hunter exam. Richard said, Pence and I passed the test, and Sancho was disqualified. That. Julia said nervously, what about me? You are not disqualified, I can share the information with you. Great. Gloria's face brightened. Get out of here first. Bakuer saw Richard and the 3 leaving, and wanted to catch up, but after hesitating, he gave up. Where is the conspicuous place, the hidden place? Gloria hesitated. The eye-catching place should refer to the landmark building of the city, because only that one is the most eye-catching. And the hidden place may refer to a hidden point of this landmark building. Gloria analyzed it carefully. Before on the airship, Goliath didn't show much. Now Goliath wants to show his value and wants Richard and Pensy to see his value. Then let's go there first. A huge building appeared in front of the 3 of them. It's a hotel. The height reached nearly 100 stories, the highest in this city. Not as good as the Sky Arena. But just as spectacular. The eye-catching place should refer to this place. Goliath looked at Richard. Are we going in? Go in. This is not just a hotel, there are many facilities inside. Come and see. Goliath stood in front of a sign. This hotel has a facility called the Labyrinth. If it's secret, the labyrinth must be counted. Maybe we're going through this maze. Pence subconsciously looked at Richard. Richard nodded. Go and see. This information is just one sentence, Richard can analyze the big, probably that is what Glaya said. And Richard remembers one thing. That is, after gone past the captain's assessment, the captain almost told Gon the address directly. This means that the captain of the airship, the sentence said, will not have too many layers of meaning, and there is a high probability that it means literally. The comer stops. A young man stands at the entrance. There are 2 entrances to this maze. Choose A, you can challenge 3 times. Choose B, you can only challenge once. Gloria hesitated. Richard glanced at the young man and raised his brows. If the entrance is correct, you will be able to pass it once. If the entrance is incorrect, it will be meaningless to repeat it multiple times. That's why, I choose entrance B. Pence caught up with Richard. Gloria hesitated. This gentleman. Gloria eventually followed. Richard, why did you choose B? Don't we have more chances to choose A? Richard shook his head. This is a labyrinth. There is no rule that you can't go back. So what's the difference between once and multiple times? This is just a trap. Choosing A is definitely a dead end. Richard walked forward. But soon, the 3 found out. This is not a maze at all. It's just a straight path. Dark, small, narrow. Only the footsteps of the 3 of them echoed. Step by step. Finally, the end has come. Is a door. Arrive. Richard said, it is now certain that if you choose A, you will enter the real maze, and choosing B is the correct path to the first examination room of the hunter exam. The 3 pushed open the door and entered. Inside is a room. There is a table in the middle. Several chairs are scattered around. Richard stepped forward. This chair is still warm. It seems that someone has already arrived before we arrive. Suddenly, the ground shook. Richard looked towards the door. Then I saw a display above the door, and the display was a series of numbers. At the moment, this number is turning rapidly. This is not a room. But the elevator. Richard frowned slightly. The entrance is different from Gon's exam, but the elevator is the same. Gloria and Pensy leaned against the wall to stabilize their bodies. The elevator is falling fast. Finally, the elevator stopped. The door opens. A passage appeared in the sight of the 3 of them. Both Goliath and Pence looked at Richard. Richard stepped out. Gradually, some figures appeared. About 100 people. After seeing Richard and others, they all turned their gazes over, and then withdrew. Richard's eyes also glanced around. Sudden pupil shrink. Because Richard saw 2 acquaintances. One is Hisoka. The other is Ilmi, an Ilmi disguised as Gitarakar. What a coincidence! It turned out to be really this hunter exam. Multiple entrances. Asterisk. Chapter 34. There are 2 hunter exams that Hisoka took. In the first game, he was disqualified because he attacked the examiner. The second one is where Gon, Killua, Leorio, Kurapika are. And if IL was obsessed, it was obviously the second game. The rules of the exam will not change. Then this time, even Peng Si has the possibility of passing the exam. Richard glanced at Pence. With Peng Si's strength, the previous year's test would definitely not pass. But this year is different. For the last exam of the year, Netero has opened up a large number of places for unknown reasons. According to the rules, only one of the contestants who entered the final exam will not pass. In the plot, a little accident happened during the exam. Killua killed a contestant and was disqualified because of the excitement of Ilfin. But these 2 people did not pass the exam. And the others, all pass. Hisoka also saw Richard, but didn't care. Hisoka knew about Richard that Richard used the recorder in the match against Seidaso in the Sky Arena. Hisoka couldn't see through the thoughts of death hidden in the recorder. Therefore, judge Richard as an ordinary nin. Hisoka has no fighting interest in Richard. Let's go over there. Richard pointed to a corner. Gloria and Pence subconsciously followed behind Richard. Originally, Gloria's plan was to play the role of captain in the team. But the exam has not yet officially started, and there is one less member. And his performance was pretty bad. Gloria had realized that Richard was much stronger than he had imagined. A figure came towards the 3.is middle-aged. He is not tall, even short, with a fake smile on his face. Hello, I haven't met you. Are you a new candidate taking the hunter exam for the first time? You are. Gloria asked subconsciously. I'm Tonpa. Tonpa pointed to himself and said, don't look at me like this, I'm an old candidate who has taken the hunter exam 35 times. It's a little embarrassing, even though I failed every time. However, there is still experience. If you don't understand anything, you can ask me. By the way, do you want a drink? Richard gave Tonpa a serious look. According to some information learned in previous lives, there are two opinions about Tonpa. One is that Tonpa can't be Nin, just an ordinary person with a little strength and bad taste. The second one is that Tonpa is actually very strong, far surpassing Hisoka, a fan of IL, who participated in the hunter exam just to choose the right seedlings, which may be related to the Dark Continent. Richard looked away. The second possibility is very low. After all, I can't see the breath of Nin from Tonpa's body. Compared with other Nin people, my perception is much stronger. Unless, Tonpa is far stronger than Netero. Faced with the drink that Tonpa handed over, Glaya would refuse without Richard reminding him. Gloria still has this experience. Thanks, but we brought water. That's it. Tonpa's face showed a hint of disappointment, but he quickly restrained himself and said, then let me tell you about a few people to pay attention to in this exam. First of all, it's the man with red hair. In last year's exam, this man was disqualified because he seriously injured the examiner. He only came this year, otherwise he would have obtained the hunter license last year, which is very dangerous. And that one, with needles all over his body, no human breath at all, it's terrifying. The three over there are three brothers, and they are very strong. Tonpa said a lot until a new student arrives. Tonpa just stopped. Welcome to the new candidates. Gloria retracted her gaze and lowered her voice. Does this guy treat us as complete newcomers? It's impossible to be trusted with such an approach. The candidates who come here are all competitors. There must be something wrong with that drink. Richard glanced at Tonpa's back. Don't care about him, we can just do our own thing. Gregory laughed suddenly. Someone has really been fooled. Richard looked over. Then I saw a young man with short white hair who took the drink from Tonpa's hand. Without hesitation, he opened the drink and drank it. The smile on Tonpa's face became more and more intense. We'll see in a moment what was going on in that Tonpa's drink. Gloria said expectantly. But Richard knew that nothing would work. At this age, the white-haired boy who appeared in this hunter exam was only one person. That is Killua, the most valued genius of the Zodiac family. Compared to Ilmi, Magi, Kalito, Silva, and Jino, I believe more in Killua's potential. Probably because of the hair color. Ilmi, Magi, Kalito, all have black hair. Only Killua is an exception, inheriting the white hair of the Zodiac family. Tonpa's poison had no effect on Killua's constitution. Over time, more and more people. Crack. The door opened again. 3 figures came out from inside. Leorio, Kurapika, and J. Freaks. Asterisk. Chapter 35. Tonpa put down Killua and greeted the 3 of them. A hunter exam worker handing out number plates. Tonpa excitedly took out his drink. But, like the original, it failed. Kurapika has enough vigilance. Why was the Coluda clan exterminated? Kurapika herself bears no small responsibility. Because the seclusion place of the Coluda people is very secret. Outsiders can't find it at all. At that time, it was Kurapika and another partner who rescued a person, but only got a verbal promise from the person to keep the Kuruda tribe's seclusion a secret, and then let this person go. So that the information of the Coluda tribe will be leaked. Phantom Troupe appears. Overnight, the Coluda clan was wiped out. Only Kurapika escaped because of going out. For this incident, Kurapika not only has hatred for Phantom Troupe, but also self-blame for herself. Since then, Kurapika, it has been hard to trust others. Gon was born with sensitivity in this regard, and felt that something was wrong with the drink, but he didn't think it was Tonpa poisoning, but simply thought the drink was spoiled. Leorio, with some changes from the original. In the original book, Leorio had already taken a sip, and only spit out the drink after being reminded by Gon. But now, Leorio because he saw Richard. Bang! I didn't hold the drink in my hand. Fell to the ground. Richard noticed Leorio's gaze and nodded slightly. Leorio, have you met someone you know? That's it. Leorio recalled the scene and forced a smile. The situation at the time, for Leorio, was a psychological shadow. So weird. Even after that, Leorio deliberately learned something about hunter. Because of Richard's reminder, Leorio wanted to get a hunter license. But among the information Leorio got, no one could have such a strange ability like Richard. Just play the clarinet. You can drive those people crazy. Self-mutilation, cannibalism. It's like witchcraft. Leorio was just a little scared at the time. And the more he learned, the stronger and stronger Leorio's fear of Richard became. Tonpa glanced back. It's those three people. Like you, those three are newcomers. Tonpa handed him another drink. The bottle of drink is gone, so don't let it. I'll give you another can. And at this moment, Gon's voice sounded, Mr. Tonpa, your drink seems to have expired. Leorio withdrew his hand to take the drink. Tonpa's face changed, showing an embarrassed expression. Did it expire? Yes, I smelled it, and the smell is not right. I will not judge this wrong. I am sure. I'm so sorry. Killua noticed Gon and walked over involuntarily. Throughout the examination room, with so many people, Killua only saw Gon, who was about his age, and naturally interested. Killua understands hunter exams. So, know the difficulty of the hunter exam. Killua itself, after passing countless hard training, has the confidence to participate in the hunter exam. So Killua wondered, what was Gon for? What was Gon's previous experience like? Any drink? Can you give me another bottle? Certainly. Tonpa smiled. Gon also looked at Killua. Leorio said, little brother, this drink has expired, do you still want to drink it? Expired. Do not. Killua shook his head and said, this drink only contains some laxatives, so it doesn't taste right, but this level of laxatives is useless to me. When Killua's words fell, all three of Gon looked at Tonpa. Tonpa gave an embarrassed look. Ah, just kidding. Besides, this is equivalent to a test for you. If you can't even tell the difference, the difficulty of the hunter test will be much greater than this. I'm here for your own good. Tonpa immediately changed the subject. Let me introduce you to the candidates who need to pay attention in this exam. Tonpa repeated what he said to the three Richards. With emphasis on Hisoka, Gitaraker, Fan. After finishing speaking, Tonpa quickly backed away and returned to the crowd. Leorio, won't you go and say hello to them? Gon pointed in Richard's direction. Leorio shook his head. Forget it, I only know one of them, and I don't know them very well. Suddenly, Leorio's expression turned serious. The other two, I don't know. However, Gon, the man in the middle, is very strong and very dangerous. You must not conflict with him, even if you give up. Understand? Kurapika was alert. But when Leorio said this, Gon became interested. Is that person strong? Not just strong, but dangerous. Leorio said, I personally think he is more dangerous than what Tonpa said about Hisoka and Gitaraker. Hearing Leorio say that, Killua couldn't help but look towards Richard. Sudden! A burst of exclamation suddenly sounded from the crowd. Asterisk. Chapter 36. In front of Hisoka, a candidate's arms shattered in plain sight. After that, the whole body. Suddenly, a vacuum circle appeared around Hisoka, and no one dared to approach. Not because the man died, but because the person died, they couldn't read it. Kurapika's expression became serious. Leorio, do you still think that the person you know is more dangerous than Hisoka? Leorio swallowed and thought about it. Then nodded. Yes, I'm sure. There was a sound of footsteps. A man in a formal suit appeared in front of everyone. Hello everyone, I'm the examiner for the first exam of the hunter exam, SATS. Now, I want to ask you a question. Do you really want to take this hunter exam, and it is known that there will be a large number of deaths during the exam? Over the years, many candidates will die in the hunter exam. Now you give up, it's still too late. As long as you turn around and walk towards the elevator, you can leave. But no one left. Those who can come here, even newcomers, are mentally prepared enough. And, have a certain confidence in their own strength. Very well, since no one has left, I will take everyone to the first examination room now. Please follow me closely. Immediately, Sats turned around and walked towards the other end of the passage. The crowd followed behind Sats. A fat man holding a portable computer said, it was exactly what I expected. The first test is to test endurance. As long as you can keep up with the examiner, you will pass the test. Before I came, I had already prepared enough physical reserves. Gradually, Sats increased his speed a little. The team of candidates is divided into 3 parts. The first group, followed closely behind Satsu. The second batch has the largest number of people. The third batch had already fallen to the back of the team and was about to lose their hold. Some people's faces became ugly. Because, according to the situation they investigated, this endurance test should not have such a long distance. One candidate after another stopped. For Richard and Pence, it was easy. But Gloria was already a little bit exhausted. Breathing heavily. How far? Richard didn't expect that Gloria's physical fitness would be so poor. The information I got is not so far away. Gloria was a little desperate. Not because the road is too long, but because there is no end in sight. Do not know. Richard shook his head and said, only the examiner knows how long. However, it can be roughly speculated that the purpose of these levels is to screen personnel. Then, we can look at the number of eliminations. There are more than 400 candidates taking the exam. There are now dozens of them that have been completely left behind. Just hold on for a while, maybe it's almost the same. Gloria nodded. However, when Glia looked at the situation beside her, Gloria was even more desperate. Because there is not much worse than him. Richard, I may not be able to hold on. I gave up on this exam. I passed the first exam so hard, and after that, I may fail even more. Forget it. Richard, Pence, come on. Gloria slowed down. Richard didn't expect Gloria to give up so decisively. However, this cannot be said to be an incorrect choice. The first level was barely passed, then the later levels were even more difficult. After all, there is only one person like Leorio. The first exam was tough. Basically the last place, but Leorio is improving very fast and keeps improving. In terms of magnitude, it is bigger than Gon and Kurapika. However, this has something to do with the lower base of Leorio itself. Going from 40 to 60 is definitely easier than going from 80 to 90. Peng Si, are you okay? Fine. Pensie's condition is a bit worse than Richard's. But better than most people. Richard glanced aside. Both Hisoka and Gitarakar were among the second group. In fact, their strength is stronger than the examiner. But at this time, it doesn't make sense to be in the limelight. It's hard for others to guess Hisoka's mind. An Ilmi, just came for Killua. I cannot make it. Leorio gasped heavily. Then I'll take a step forward. Kurapika said. It is good. Tonpa came to Leorio and sneered. Young man, give up. With your strength, it is impossible to pass. There is still a long way to go. Leorio gave Tonpa a hard look. Tonpa's strategy went awry. A person like Leorio can't stand the most powerful method. Tonpa would have wanted to make Leorio despair. Unexpectedly, it also aroused Leorio's fighting spirit. A new force burst out from Leorio's body. Tonpa's face darkened. Soon, however, Leorio couldn't hold on anymore. Tonpa's stimulation is still not strong enough for Leorio. Breathing heavily, he carried the box. The whole person ran with all his strength in a very strange posture. Do you need help? Leorio looked to the side suddenly. Richard. No need. Leorio was taken aback. I can do it. Leorio's speed suddenly accelerated. Needless to say, what Tonpa just said was just a small stimulus. Then Richard's words, for Leorio, are panic. Leorio was afraid that Richard took out his recorder. Asterisk. Chapter 37. Richard shrugged. Originally Richard was going to help Leorio. After all, Richard implicated Leorio when he was hunted down by gangsters. And even so, Leorio still didn't forget to bring out the medicine Richard was going to use. Possibly Leorio has various shortcomings. But as a doctor, Leorio is competent. Leorio's potential is once again stimulated. Even more than Kurapika, who had already left first. This surprised Kurapika a little. Richard is back in the second echelon, tied with Pence. Watching Gon and Killua suddenly accelerate, Richard smiled. Young is good. Now Richard, making decisions, will consider comprehensive interests more. Things like Gon and Killua, Richard doesn't do it anymore. Past this age, the surroundings were quiet. Only the sound of running and breathing remains. Most people don't have the extra strength. Satsu's speed was getting faster and faster, so that he gradually disappeared from everyone's sight. Only those in the first echelon can still see it. Finally, a tall step appeared. A ray of light poured down from above. Sats stopped. Gone, Killua, first tier. Second tier. Leorio fell behind again. Sats looked at the time. Time up. A stone door slowly fell. Wait a moment. Leorio gritted his teeth hard. At the critical moment, he rushed out from the gap in the stone gate. But the man behind was not so lucky and was blocked by Shimon. Only one step away from passing the border. Gon and Killua were both excited, and they saw the exam more as a game. Especially Killua. Killua didn't care that much about getting a hunter license. Killua was even happier, having made Gon as a friend. A peer who can be admired by Killua. Kurapika looked in Richard's direction, then looked back at Leorio, who was gasping for breath. Leorio, I think your judgment is wrong. You said that person is more dangerous, but, even in the first level, one person in their team was disqualified. Having teammates like that proves they're not strong. Leorio shook his head. You don't understand, you haven't seen it, so you don't know. Anyway, my suggestion is that if you can, it's best not to confront them, otherwise, there will be no good results. Gon came over. Leorio, Kurapika, what are you talking about? Kurapika gestured to Richard's side. Killua glanced at it and said, I remember that there were 3 of them before. It was a temporary combination at first glance, so the strength of the team members is different, which is normal. Temporary combination. Kurapika froze for a moment. Yes, it is obvious that the breath of those 3 people is completely different. Gon nodded beside him. Yes, I feel it too. Kurapika's eyes flickered. Sats came to the crowd. And at this time, sudden, a middle-aged man came out from the side, looking seriously injured and dragging a monkey. Don't be deceived by him. This person is not a real examiner at all. He is a monster, a man-faced ape, and can change into a human. They attacked me. I'm the real examiner. If everyone follows him, he will bring everyone into their lair and eat everyone. The middle-aged man said, Everyone, come with me and kill this monster. Immediately, the students fell silent. Sats looked at the middle-aged calmly and did not speak. In other words, this is also a test. Can you judge the real anthropomorphic ape and examiner? Leorio stood up. For this first test, Leorio was very dissatisfied and felt that it was meaningless. He simply exhausted one's physical strength and endurance to such an extent that he could not see any skills at all. So, subconsciously, Leorio was on the side of the newly emerged middle-aged. Richard looked in Hisoka's direction. If there is no change, then Hisoka should take action on Sats and Ape. Attack both at the same time. Sats took up Hisoka's attack. The human-faced ape did not, and was killed directly. Richard, what are we going to do? Pence asked. Need not. Richard shook his head and said, the correct way to do it is not just to judge it, but to keep it secret without answering when it is judged. We don't need to say it. Why? Because candidates who can't even judge this are really not eligible to enter the next round. Richard said, and, in a sense, they and us are competitors, and by speaking out, it is equivalent to helping competitors and creating disadvantages for themselves. This is Richard's idea. The reason why he said it was that Richard was testing Pence. To get a clear idea of Pence's concept. In a team, the 3 views are the same is the most suitable. If they are different, conflicts can easily arise. Not just the team, but the couple as well. Some people seem to believe it or not, and stand on the middle-aged side. And at this time, Hisoka shot. The 2 cards flew out with lightning speed. Richard's eyes narrowed slightly. You can see clearly. This proves that the gap between me and Hisoka is not that big. The amount of recitation is not as good as Hisoka. However, it is not without the power of a fight. Asterisk. Chapter 38. Pfft. The middle-aged covered his throat and fell down. The figure gradually turned into a man-faced ape. Only after that did someone notice the card on the neck of the orang asli. And in Sats's hand, a card also appeared. A lot of people realize what's going on. Most people didn't even notice Hisoka's move. Among all the candidates, only 3 mastered none. Hisoka, Ilmi, Richard. Sats looked at Hisoka. The one who attacked the examiner last year was you, right? Hisoka smiled. After all, this is the fastest method, isn't it? If it were the examiner, he would definitely not be able to withstand my attack. Sats was silent for a while. It's not an example. If you still attack the examiner in the next exam, I will directly disqualify you from the exam. Hisoka shrugged. Those candidates who stood next to the middle-aged and supported the anthropomorphic ape returned to the crowd in embarrassment. Satsuki's eyes flickered. This test was destroyed by Hisoka. Then, the next test needs to be a little more difficult. Only in this way can enough candidates be screened out when they arrive at the second examination room. The forest in front is the first examination room. There are many monsters living here. And all you have to do is follow me and run out of this forest. This place is called Damian Wetlands, also known as the Deceiver's Denmark. The real first exam has begun. Sats turned around and ran towards the forest. Some people complained. Run again. Completely a physical test, not a hunter test at all. However, when they enter the forest, they will understand. The forest in front of him is more than physical strength. There are all kinds of dangers here. This level tests the question of how to survive in the face of an unknown wild environment. There are a lot of monsters living in the forest. The anthropomorphic ape just now is one of them. Countless mists shrouded over. The students gradually lost their sight. Richard and Pence also got separated. With Pensie's ability, Richard didn't need to worry that Pensie couldn't get through here. For Peng Si, the fog here, and the woods, were not a hindrance at all. Those bees will provide all the information to Pensie. Richard, on the other hand, wanted to use these monsters to experiment with his Noonan. A picture of greed. There is no one around. Not even the breath of the hunter exam staff. In fact, in addition to the examiners, there are many staff here. The purpose of these staff is to make these candidates more likely to survive when their lives are in danger. After all, these people are considered to have good potential. A huge tortoise appeared in Richard's line of sight. Strawberry turtle. Strawberries grow on the body, hiding in the bushes, or in the fog. Camouflage. Wait until someone approaches and attack immediately. Strong bite. A human, they can bite off in one bite. Richard stepped forward. Strawberry turtle saw Richard. Sudden. The strawberry turtle attacked, twisting its neck, opening its mouth wide and biting at Richard. Picture of greed. A scroll appeared in Richard's hand. After that, it suddenly unfolded. The strawberry turtle is on the picture scroll. But no matter how you bite it, you can't break it. Richard thought for a moment. The picture scroll became longer, and under Richard's control, it wrapped around the neck of the strawberry turtle, constantly tightening it. Immediately, the strawberry turtle became unable to breathe and struggled desperately. Until he was strangled to death by the picture scroll. Richard retracted the scroll. The defensive ability and winding ability of the picture scroll have been tested. Next, this test scroll's mental pollution ability. Richard sums up the Sonata of Madness and the picture scroll of Greed. In the Sonata of Madness, the creatures that can be heard become crazy and lose their conscious control, while the picture of Greed can greatly magnify the inner greed of the creatures that can be seen. Both are spiritual effects. Richard calls it mental pollution. Another killer turtle appeared. Richard didn't approach, but quietly, unfolded the picture scroll not far from the strawberry turtle, and then made a little noise to attract the strawberry turtle's attention. Strawberry turtle looked over. His eyes were focused on the scroll. Richard noticed. Immediately, the strawberry turtle's line of sight became strange. It's like seeing tons of delicious food. Fascinated eyes. 1 bite, 2 bites. Strawberry turtles gnaw on the soil and stones on the ground. Even if the mouth is full of blood. The greed of this strawberry turtle lies in food. The effect of the picture scroll of greed will not be as serious as the crazy Sonata. However, after sinking into the fantasy, it becomes an easy thing for me to kill the enemy. Richard took out his recorder. Use burrows, read the bullet. A bullet directly hit the strawberry turtle's eyebrow. The strawberry turtle's head fell heavily and hit the ground. Until death, the strawberry turtle is still immersed in fantasy. This is a good way to die. Sudden. There was a sound of footsteps. Richard turned around and saw a dozen people. There is a vague enveloping trend. Boy, are you single? Looks like you're out of luck. Now take the initiative to withdraw from the candidates, we can spare your life. Otherwise. Asterisk. Chapter 39. How about otherwise? Otherwise, we can only kill you. A young man said, there is no way, after all, we are competitors. We will not let go of such a good opportunity now, kill you, and then our competition will not be so fierce. Do you think so? A middle-aged man snorted coldly. Do you still want to alienate us? Never mind, we are a team. Only we can pass the hunter exam this time, because we will continue to eliminate you during the exam. One by one. This environment is really good for us. Kill you, no one will know. Especially a single person like you. Richard shook his head. I'm not interested in alienating you. The reason why I ask this is that I just want to make sure of one thing. What's the matter? Are you all damned? Before these people could react, Richard's attack had already fallen. Picture scroll maze. Richard's breath was continuously fed into the scroll, and the scroll became longer and larger, entwined and surrounded, covering the entire nearby area. With Richard as the center, the radius is 10 meters. More than a dozen people, all fell into the picture scroll maze. What is this? This unprecedented change surprised them. So weird. Such a huge picture scroll appeared out of thin air, and this picture scroll was so tough that it could not be broken open with a knife. A young man forced himself to calm down. Pretend to be a ghost. I burned your painting. The young man took out a lighter. But it didn't work. This picture scroll is not real paper, but is transformed by Richard's thoughts. If a lighter can solve it, then Richard's nin will cost nothing. A middle-aged man noticed what was on the scroll. His eyes became blurred involuntarily. Money, a lot of money. The middle-aged man lay on the ground, constantly picking up the soil and stones beside him, and stuffing them into his arms. It's all mine, it's all mine. The people next to him were dumbfounded. Are you crazy? However, immediately, he also looked at the words in the picture scroll. Greed took over their consciousness all at once. Too weak. Not ordinary weak. Richard's mental pollution ability, even members of the lizards, can't resist for a long time, let alone these ordinary hunter exam candidates, who haven't even mastered the recitation. At a glance, it falls. Mine, all mine. The two fought and fought. Richard was standing high, looking down. Without Richard's need for further action, these people are already under the influence of greed, lose control, and fight. It reminded Richard of a picture. Sayu in mind. Faced with a group of robbers, the monkey turned into a gold ingot, allowing these robbers to kill each other. Falling down one by one. Only one remains. A small mound was piled up in front of this man. Richard took out his recorder. You sparrows, read the bullet. Boom. This man's head was directly smashed. Richard retracted the scroll. Sudden. Richard felt an extremely dangerous aura. Suddenly turned back. Hisoka. A figure emerged from the bushes. Hisoka stared at Richard with a twinkle in his eyes. I didn't expect it, I lost my sight. I thought your nin had been developed and abolished, but I didn't expect it to be your disguise. When you were in the sky arena, you took it out and fought against Seidaso, it was just an illusion. That one just now is your real nin. Very funny. Hisoka licked his lips. Richard frowned. Richard didn't expect Hisoka to appear here. Especially, so unlucky. Also let Hisoka see the picture of greed. What do you want to say? Have a fight with me. Hisoka got a little excited. Richard has some knowledge of Hisoka. Hisoka likes to find interesting opponents. Not exactly strength. Gon's strength is not strong at all, but because of a certain quality, Hisoka took a fancy to it. In addition, among the Phantom Troupe, there is more than one strong. But Hisoka only saw Crollo. With Phaeton's strength, he also fought a battle with Hisoka. In the entire brigade, Crollo and Phaeton were relatively stronger, and Richard rated them as B level. But Hisoka has no interest in Phaeton at all. Not interested in. It's not up to you whether you are interested or not. It's just the two of us here. Could it be that I attack you and you won't resist? Hisoka narrowed his eyes slightly. I don't resist. Hisoka froze. What's the meaning? Richard said, it literally means, according to my judgment, I am not your opponent, so if you shoot at me, I will not resist, but you have to bear the pursuit of my death thought. Richard said this on purpose. Richard rated Hisoka a B. My current rating is C. But Richard didn't think he was incapable of fighting. The picture scroll maze opened. Crazy Sonata blows. Hisoka doesn't necessarily hold back. If Hisoka really attacked Richard, of course Richard would resist. Waiting to die is not Richard's character. Richard said this on purpose, just to dissuade Hisoka. Hisoka's character, Richard understands. Sure enough, Hisoka's interest was greatly diminished after receiving such a reply from Richard. However, if you want me to fight with you, I can also agree, but I have one condition. What conditions? You find me a dark Sonata, and I promise to fight one-on-one with you. Asterisk. Chapter 39. How about otherwise? Otherwise, we can only kill you. A young man said, there is no way, after all, we are competitors. We will not let go of such a good opportunity now, kill you, and then our competition will not be so fierce. Do you think so? A middle-aged man snorted coldly. Do you still want to alienate us? Never mind, we are a team. Only we can pass the hunter exam this time, because we will continue to eliminate you during the exam. One by one. This environment is really good for us. Kill you, no one will know. Especially a single person like you. Richard shook his head. I'm not interested in alienating you. The reason why I ask this is that I just want to make sure of one thing. What's the matter? Are you all damned? Before these people could react, Richard's attack had already fallen. Picture scroll maze. Richard's breath was continuously fed into the scroll, and the scroll became longer and larger, entwined and surrounded, covering the entire nearby area. With Richard as the center, the radius is 10 meters. More than a dozen people, all fell into the picture scroll maze. What is this? This unprecedented change surprised them. So weird. Such a huge picture scroll appeared out of thin air, and this picture scroll was so tough that it could not be broken open with a knife. A young man forced himself to calm down. Pretend to be a ghost. I burned your painting. The young man took out a lighter. But it didn't work. This picture scroll is not real paper, but is transformed by Richard's thoughts. If a lighter can solve it, then Richard's nin will cost nothing. A middle-aged man noticed what was on the scroll. His eyes became blurred involuntarily. Money, a lot of money. The middle-aged man lay on the ground, constantly picking up the soil and stones beside him, and stuffing them into his arms. It's all mine, it's all mine. The people next to him were dumbfounded. Are you crazy? However, immediately, he also looked at the words in the picture scroll. Greed took over their consciousness all at once. Too weak. Not ordinary weak. Richard's mental pollution ability, even members of the lizards, can't resist for a long time, let alone these ordinary hunter exam candidates, who haven't even mastered the recitation. At a glance, it falls. Mine, all mine. The two fought and fought. Richard was standing high, looking down. Without Richard's need for further action, these people are already under the influence of greed, lose control, and fight. It reminded Richard of a picture. Sayu in mind. Faced with a group of robbers, the monkey turned into a gold ingot, allowing these robbers to kill each other. Falling down one by one. Only one remains. A small mound was piled up in front of this man. Richard took out his recorder. Use burrows, read the bullet. Boom. This man's head was directly smashed. Richard retracted the scroll. Sudden. Richard felt an extremely dangerous aura. Suddenly turned back. Hisoka. A figure emerged from the bushes. Hisoka stared at Richard with a twinkle in his eyes. I didn't expect it, I lost my sight. I thought your nin had been developed and abolished, but I didn't expect it to be your disguise. When you were in the sky arena, you took it out and fought against Seidaso, it was just an illusion. That one just now is your real nin. Very funny. Hisoka licked his lips. Richard frowned. Richard didn't expect Hisoka to appear here. Especially, so unlucky. Also let Hisoka see the picture of greed. What do you want to say? Have a fight with me. Hisoka got a little excited. Richard has some knowledge of Hisoka. Hisoka likes to find interesting opponents. Not exactly strength. Gon's strength is not strong at all, but because of a certain quality, Hisoka took a fancy to it. In addition, among the Phantom Troupe, there is more than one strong. But Hisoka only saw Chrollo. With Phaeton's strength, he also fought a battle with Hisoka. In the entire brigade, Chrollo and Phaeton were relatively stronger, and Richard rated them as B level. But Hisoka has no interest in Phaeton at all. Not interested in. It's not up to you whether you are interested or not. It's just the two of us here. Could it be that I attack you and you won't resist? Hisoka narrowed his eyes slightly. I don't resist. Hisoka froze. What's the meaning? Richard said, it literally means, according to my judgment, I am not your opponent, so if you shoot at me, I will not resist, but you have to bear the pursuit of my death thought. Richard said this on purpose. Richard rated Hisoka a B. My current rating is C. But Richard didn't think he was incapable of fighting. The picture scroll maze opened. Crazy Sonata blows. Hisoka doesn't necessarily hold back. If Hisoka really attacked Richard, of course Richard would resist. Waiting to die is not Richard's character. Richard said this on purpose, just to dissuade Hisoka. Hisoka's character, Richard understands. Sure enough, Hisoka's interest was greatly diminished after receiving such a reply from Richard. However, if you want me to fight with you, I can also agree, but I have one condition. What conditions? You find me a dark Sonata, and I promise to fight one-on-one with you. Asterisk. Chapter 39. How about otherwise? Otherwise, we can only kill you. A young man said, there is no way, after all, we are competitors. We will not let go of such a good opportunity now, kill you, and then our competition will not be so fierce. Do you think so? A middle-aged man snorted coldly. Do you still want to alienate us? Never mind, we are a team. Only we can pass the hunter exam this time, because we will continue to eliminate you during the exam. One by one. This environment is really good for us. Kill you, no one will know. Especially a single person like you. Richard shook his head. I'm not interested in alienating you. The reason why I ask this is that I just want to make sure of one thing. What's the matter? Are you all damned? Before these people could react, Richard's attack had already fallen. Picture scroll maze. Richard's breath was continuously fed into the scroll, and the scroll became longer and larger, entwined and surrounded, covering the entire nearby area. With Richard as the center, the radius is 10 meters. More than a dozen people, all fell into the picture scroll maze. What is this? This unprecedented change surprised them. So weird. Such a huge picture scroll appeared out of thin air, and this picture scroll was so tough that it could not be broken open with a knife. A young man forced himself to calm down. Pretend to be a ghost. I burned your painting. The young man took out a lighter. But it didn't work. This picture scroll is not real paper, but is transformed by Richard's thoughts. If a lighter can solve it, then Richard's nun will cost nothing. A middle-aged man noticed what was on the scroll. His eyes became blurred involuntarily. Money, a lot of money. The middle-aged man lay on the ground, constantly picking up the soil and stones beside him, and stuffing them into his arms. It's all mine, it's all mine. The people next to him were dumbfounded. Are you crazy? However, immediately, he also looked at the words in the picture scroll. Greed took over their consciousness all at once. Too weak. Not ordinary weak. Richard's mental pollution ability, even members of the lizards, can't resist for a long time, let alone these ordinary hunter exam candidates, who haven't even mastered the recitation. At a glance, it falls. Mine, all mine. The two fought and fought. Richard was standing high, looking down. Without Richard's need for further action, these people are already under the influence of greed, lose control, and fight. It reminded Richard of a picture. Sayu in mind. Faced with a group of robbers, the monkey turned into a gold ingot, allowing these robbers to kill each other. Falling down one by one. Only one remains. A small mound was piled up in front of this man. Richard took out his recorder. Use burrows, read the bullet. Boom. This man's head was directly smashed. Richard retracted the scroll. Sudden. Richard felt an extremely dangerous aura. Suddenly turned back. Hisoka. A figure emerged from the bushes. Hisoka stared at Richard with a twinkle in his eyes. I didn't expect it, I lost my sight. I thought Yearnin had been developed and abolished, but I didn't expect it to be your disguise. When you were in the sky arena, you took it out and fought against Seidaso, it was just an illusion. That one just now is your real nin. Very funny. Hisoka licked his lips. Richard frowned. Richard didn't expect Hisoka to appear here. Especially, so unlucky. Also let Hisoka see the picture of greed. What do you want to say? Have a fight with me? Hisoka got a little excited. Richard has some knowledge of Hisoka. Hisoka likes to find interesting opponents. Not exactly strength. Gon's strength is not strong at all, but because of a certain quality, Hisoka took a fancy to it. In addition, among the Phantom Troupe, there is more than one strong. But Hisoka only saw Crollo. With Phaeton's strength, he also fought a battle with Hisoka. In the entire brigade, Crollo and Phaeton were relatively stronger, and Richard rated them as B-level. But Hisoka has no interest in Phaeton at all. Not interested in. It's not up to you whether you are interested or not. It's just the two of us here. Could it be that I attack you and you won't resist? Hisoka narrowed his eyes slightly. I don't resist. Hisoka froze. What's the meaning? Richard said, it literally means, according to my judgment, I am not your opponent, so if you shoot at me, I will not resist, but you have to bear the pursuit of my death thought. Richard said this on purpose. Richard rated Hisoka a B. My current rating is C. But Richard didn't think he was incapable of fighting. The picture scroll maze opened. Crazy Sonata blows. Hisoka doesn't necessarily hold back. If Hisoka really attacked Richard, of course Richard would resist. Waiting to die is not Richard's character. Richard said this on purpose, just to dissuade Hisoka. Hisoka's character, Richard understands. Sure enough, Hisoka's interest was greatly diminished after receiving such a reply from Richard. However, if you want me to fight with you, I can also agree, but I have one condition. What conditions? You find me a dark Sonata, and I promise to fight one-on-one with you. Asterisk. Chapter 39. How about otherwise? Otherwise, we can only kill you. A young man said, there is no way, after all, we are competitors. We will not let go of such a good opportunity now, kill you, and then our competition will not be so fierce. Do you think so? A middle-aged man snorted coldly. Do you still want to alienate us? Never mind, we are a team. Only we can pass the hunter exam this time, because we will continue to eliminate you during the exam. One by one. This environment is really good for us. Kill you, no one will know. Especially a single person like you. Richard shook his head. I'm not interested in alienating you. The reason why I ask this is that I just want to make sure of one thing. What's the matter? Are you all damned? Before these people could react, Richard's attack had already fallen. Picture scroll maze. Richard's breath was continuously fed into the scroll, and the scroll became longer and larger, entwined and surrounded, covering the entire nearby area. With Richard as the center, the radius is 10 meters. More than a dozen people, all fell into the picture scroll maze. What is this? This unprecedented change surprised them. So weird. Such a huge picture scroll appeared out of thin air, and this picture scroll was so tough that it could not be broken open with a knife. A young man forced himself to calm down. Pretend to be a ghost. I burned your painting. The young man took out a lighter. But it didn't work. This picture scroll is not real paper, but is transformed by Richard's thoughts. If a lighter can solve it, then Richard's nin will cost nothing. A middle-aged man noticed what was on the scroll. His eyes became blurred involuntarily. Money, a lot of money. The middle-aged man lay on the ground, constantly picking up the soil and stones beside him, and stuffing them into his arms. It's all mine, it's all mine. The people next to him were dumbfounded. Are you crazy? However, immediately, he also looked at the words in the picture scroll. Greed took over their consciousness all at once. Too weak. Not ordinary weak. Richard's mental pollution ability, even members of the lizards, can't resist for a long time, let alone these ordinary hunter exam candidates, who haven't even mastered the recitation. At a glance, it falls. Mine, all mine. The two fought and fought. Richard was standing high, looking down. Without Richard's need for further action, these people are already under the influence of greed, lose control, and fight. It reminded Richard of a picture. Sayu in mind. Faced with a group of robbers, the monkey turned into a gold ingot, allowing these robbers to kill each other. Falling down one by one. Only one remains. A small mound was piled up in front of this man. Richard took out his recorder. Use burrows, read the bullet. Boom. This man's head was directly smashed. Richard retracted the scroll. Sudden. Richard felt an extremely dangerous aura. Suddenly turned back. Hisoka. A figure emerged from the bushes. Hisoka stared at Richard with a twinkle in his eyes. I didn't expect it, I lost my sight. I thought Yurnan had been developed and abolished, but I didn't expect it to be your disguise. When you were in the Sky Arena, you took it out and fought against Seidaso, it was just an illusion. That one just now is your real Nin. Very funny. Hisoka licked his lips. Richard frowned. Richard didn't expect Hisoka to appear here. Especially, so unlucky. Also let Hisoka see the picture of greed. What do you want to say? Have a fight with me. Hisoka got a little excited. Richard has some knowledge of Hisoka. Hisoka likes to find interesting opponents. Not exactly strength. Gon's strength is not strong at all, but because of a certain quality, Hisoka took a fancy to it. In addition, among the Phantom Troupe, there is more than one strong. But Hisoka only saw Chrollo. With Phaeton's strength, he also fought a battle with Hisoka. In the entire brigade, Chrollo and Phaeton were relatively stronger, and Richard rated them as B-level. But Hisoka has no interest in Phaeton at all. Not interested in. It's not up to you whether you are interested or not. It's just the two of us here. Could it be that I attack you and you won't resist? Hisoka narrowed his eyes slightly. I don't resist. Hisoka froze. What's the meaning? Richard said, it literally means, according to my judgment, I am not your opponent, so if you shoot at me, I will not resist, but you have to bear the pursuit of my death thought. Richard said this on purpose. Richard rated Hisoka a B. My current rating is C. But Richard didn't think he was incapable of fighting. The picture scroll maze opened. Crazy Sonata blows. Hisoka doesn't necessarily hold back. If Hisoka really attacked Richard, of course Richard would resist. Waiting to die is not Richard's character. Richard said this on purpose, just to dissuade Hisoka. Hisoka's character, Richard understands. Sure enough, Hisoka's interest was greatly diminished after receiving such a reply from Richard. However, if you want me to fight with you, I can also agree, but I have one condition. What conditions? You find me a Dark Sonata, and I promise to fight one-on-one with you. Asterisk. Chapter 40. Dark Sonata. That's right. Richard nodded and said, as long as you find the Dark Sonatas, whether it's for flute, piano, violin, or harp, you can. I can promise to go to the Sky Arena with you and have a ring battle. Hisoka's eyes flickered. You said. I said. It is good. Hisoka restrained his momentum. Watching Hisoka leave, Richard looked away. Richard is not entirely sure whether he can convince Hisoka, but now that Hisoka has agreed, it proves that Richard's previous speculation about Hisoka is correct. Because Gon was too weak, he let go of Gon, and even helped Gon collect number cards. Because Ilmi is a killer, I have no interest in fighting outside the mission, so I didn't fight Ilmi. It was not until the first chapter of the Kajin Empire that I gave Ilmi a mission. An assassination mission to himself, hoping to get a perfect battle with Ilmi. And with Chrollo, the same is true. In the face of Chrollo, who had been removed, he had no interest at all. Waiting for Chrollonen to recover before Hisoka fights Chrollo. What Hisoka cared about was not whether he could win. It's about whether the fight is fun enough. An interesting opponent, coupled with the opponent's all-out effort. That's what Hisoka wanted. Hisoka couldn't tell whether Richard's words were lying, he could only choose to believe it. And Richard gave the Hisoka condition. A Dark Sonata and a real battle with Richard. So Hisoka chose to compromise. Richard doesn't like pointless fights. Moreover, the current Richard, there is no 100% certainty of defeating Hisoka. Then, on the condition of Dark Sonata, it is the best choice. Richard suspects that his Nin has something to do with the Dark Sonata. Requires Dark Sonata. It would be a good thing if Hisoka could collect it for Richard. In addition, at that time, Richard's strength must have risen to Hisoka's level, or exceeded Hisoka's level. A fight with Hisoka is not impossible. The ability of the greedy picture scroll, I have almost tested it. Go ahead and take the test. Richard stepped forward. Slowly chased up. This level will eliminate a lot of people. Richard remembers that there were more than 300 people who entered the forest at first, and only 100 people left when they left the forest. More than half of the people were eliminated here. But correspondingly, those who can pass through the forest, basically, in the human world, can be regarded as elites. Leorio, who barely passed the last long run. This time, it passed relatively smoothly. A figure entered Richard's sight. A boy with short blonde hair. Kurapika. Hearing the voice, Kurapika turned around and saw Richard, her pupils shrank suddenly. Because of Glaya's elimination, Kurapika looked down on Richard a little. But because of Killua and Gon's words, Kurapika takes Richard seriously again. Also, Kurapika just played against Hisoka. Although only one round. Hisoka didn't show his true skills at all. But Kurapika already felt Hisoka's strength. So, what about Richard, who is more dangerous than Hisoka in Leorio's mouth? To what extent will it be? But Kurapika was worried. Richard is not the same as Hisoka. Richard won't be looking for trouble. A pointless fight that Richard didn't want at all. Richard directly overtook Kurapika. Kurapika breathed a sigh of relief. Gradually, the trees became sparser. This means that everyone has reached the end of the forest. Just get out of the forest. The test of this level is considered complete. Richard. After seeing Richard, Peng Si hurried over. Peng Si was the first to follow the examiner out of the forest. One after another, someone came out. Hisoka, Gon, Killua, Gitarakar, Bakuer, Leorio, Kurapika. A huge door appeared in everyone's sight. Sats looked around for a week. First of all, congratulations on passing the first test. All of you who came here are qualified. There is the examination room for the second assessment, please come in. As he was talking, the door opened. A huge square. 2 rows of cooktops. 2 figures. Sitting together is a woman. The other stood, a huge fat man. There is an aura of thought in both of them. Food hunter. Menchi and Bharat. Richard couldn't help thinking of another examiner. Examiner for last year's hunter exam. Seriously injured by Hisoka, he resigned as a hunter examiner and entered the base tower, where he wanted to take revenge on Hisoka and killed Hisoka. Practiced the whirling blade. But still not Hisoka's opponent. Killed by Hisoka. It may be because of what happened last year that the Hunter Association has improved the quality of this year's examiners. To prevent what happened last year from happening again. When the human-faced ape appeared before, if Sassy was too weak, he might have been killed by Hisoka. Sat stepped aside. Menchi, Bharat, the rest is up to you. Menchi nodded. It is good. It's a bit strange, I updated a chapter yesterday, and I can probably get more than 100 points of V to close. Update a chapter today, can only increase 20 V to close. I don't know if it's a problem with the website, or if I wrote it down and no one read it. Ugh. Asterisk. Chapter 41. Menchi got up from his seat. Have you seen these stoves on the side? This assessment is cooking. Use the pigs in the forest outside as ingredients to make roast pigs. As long as the two of us feel delicious at the same time, then we will pass the test. Now, let's start. Menchi's introduction is simple. Richard is in no hurry. Because Richard knew that this exam would be cancelled. Menchi is too strict with the dishes prepared by the candidates. There are not many people who are really good at food. Including Richard. Richard used to be the young master of the gangster family and didn't need to cook himself. But after awakening the memory, he was immediately hunted down. Since then, Richard has been improving. Until now. Pensy was a little worried. Richard, are you good at cooking? Won't. Richard glanced back at Menchi, then looked back. But don't worry, most candidates will not. Let's go out with everyone. Now that he knew that this level would be cancelled, Richard chose to deal with it. Unqualified. A series of voices sounded. A hunter was dissatisfied and yelled at Menchi. I think Menchi is wasting everyone's time. And not fit to be an examiner. This made Menchi angry, took out the kitchen knife in his hand, and got ready to do it. But it was preempted by Bokhara. The provocateur is knocked into the air. Richard took a serious look. Menchie's strength is initially rated as C grade. Bokhara, probably D class. In the case of Sats, I didn't see him make a move, but you can easily take Hisoka's cards. Even if Hisoka doesn't use his full strength, Sats's strength will be at least C rank. An airship appeared in the sky. An old man jumped straight down. The expressions of Menchie and Bharat immediately became serious. President Netero. President of the Hunter Association. The strongest ever among human beings. According to Netero himself, now he is less than 1/5 of his peak period, so in the human world, there should be someone stronger than Netero. Kim Freaks, Paris Stone, Bind, all possibilities. These people are geniuses. And it's at its peak. Needless to say, the peaks of these geniuses are not even 1/5 of Netero's peaks. In addition, there is a legendary existence. East Freaks. One of the ancestors of Golden Freaks. A legendary figure who wrote Journey to the New World. A lot of news about the Dark Continent comes from East Freaks. It's just breath, it's different from others. Richard looked away. I'm still a long way from Netero. Netero looked at the candidate, then at Menchie. Menchie, it's over. For these candidates, your requirements are too strict. After all, this is the selection of hunter, not simply the selection of food hunter. This exam, please cancel it. Menchie bowed his head. President, I'm sorry. Prepare for the next exam, do you have any ideas? Menchie hesitated. Not far from here, there is a cliff. As long as the candidates can take the spider eggs from the cliff and cook them, they will be considered to have passed the test. There is no need to test cooking skills, but courage and strength. President, what do you think? Netero nodded. Can arrange all the candidates to get on the airship? Yes. Not long after, the airship landed. Come to the edge of a cliff. Menchie introduced. Below this cliff, there is a kind of spider. This time, the test is to jump down and get the eggs of these spiders, one for each person. As long as you get it, you will be considered qualified. A student glanced down. So deep. What kind of assessment is this? Don't you want us to die? Menchie shook his head. Forget it, I'll show you the demonstration. Menchie came to the edge of the cliff. After that, take a leap. Everyone looked down worriedly. Then Menchie caught a spider's web. After that, remove a spider egg. Seems to be waiting for something. A gust of wind suddenly blew up and descended from the cliff. Menchie let go. The figure was blown up by the wind. He moved his body in midair and fell back to the cliff. Don't say you can't pass such a test. It couldn't be easier. For those above the standard, it really couldn't be easier. However, for those who are not strong enough, or who are not brave enough, it is very difficult to pass this level. Leorio has to be highlighted here. The long distance running in the first section of the underground passage was bumpy. The second section of the cheater's lair is quite satisfactory. And this one? Reference number, more than 100. The number of people who passed was less than 50. And Leorio turned out to be one of these people. I have to say that Leorio has really made great progress in this exam. Richard and Pence passed without a hitch. For the rest, many are familiar faces of Richard. Hisoka, Ilmi, Tonpa, Bakur. Netero smiled. The second exam is over. Candidates who have passed the exam, please get on the airship and speak. We're going to the area for the third exam. Set off. Asterisk. Chapter 42. Fewer than 50 candidates. In terms of standard, it is already considered an elite level. After all, being able to find the first exam venue for the Hunter exam has already surpassed the vast majority of people. And stand out from the more than 400 people. Being 1/8 of that lead is a testament to how good these guys are. One candidate, one room. Small single room. However, on the airship, everyone is not qualified to be picky. After Richard had dinner, he went back to his room and sat cross-legged on the ground. Before Richard has been training in physical fitness and actual combat. Now, Richard is more spiritual practice. In a sense, the potential of spiritual energy is even greater. Just like Netero. Will the day-to-day punching training have any special effect on Netero's physique improvement? Won't. That kind of practice enhances Netero's spirit. The power of spiritual energy creates the power of Netero. However, what Richard didn't notice was that when he closed his eyes and concentrated his breath, a sound that ordinary people could not hear was emitting from his body. Murmured, as if from the abyss. Richard's anger changed little by little. After an hour, Richard finished meditating and opened his eyes. Richard went to the common area. This is the viewing area of the airship. Above and on both sides are transparent glass. As soon as you look up you can see the night sky. As soon as you look down, you can see everything below. It was late at night, and there was no one else but Richard. Richard heard a little noise. It came from the training room not far away. I remember, maybe Netero and Gon and Killua were practicing. Netero must know who Gon and Killua are. There's no reason not to know. Netero and the Zodiac family have a good personal relationship. Maha Zodiac played against Netero a long time ago. And Netero became the only one who survived the fight against Maha Zodiac. This sentence sounds as if it refers to Maha Zodiac being stronger. But in reality, it means that Netero is stronger. For surviving from a killer. Or, the task is cancelled. Just like Gino and Silva, when facing Crollo, the 10 old men died prematurely, causing the mission to be cancelled. Gino and Silva give up kills on Crollo. But this situation cannot happen between Maha Zodiac and Netero. Then there is only one possibility left. That is Netero is stronger than Maha Zodiac. A killer cannot kill someone stronger than himself. And Gon is the son of Kim Freaks. Kim Freaks is one of the few people that Netero values. The height is still above Porter White and Paris Stone. Even above Netero's own son, Byongd. As a rule, the Hunter Society will not give none to an unlicensed professor. Killua, on the other hand, broke this rule. In the middle, Netero must have reached some kind of agreement with the Zodiac family. Heart Source, created by Netero. And Killua, is the most valued son of the Zodiac family. Could it be related to the Dark Continent? Netero has been to the Dark Continent, but he chose to return to the human world, and it is forbidden to go to the Dark Continent, at least while he is alive. Because of humans, can't deal with the weirdness and danger of the Dark Continent. Netero felt like he couldn't do it. It may also be because the peak period has passed. So nurturing young people. Probably Killua, Gon, and even others, were chosen. Killua's Zodiac family background, coupled with Netero's heart, will definitely surpass Silva, Jano, and even Maha Zodiac in the future. Gon's potential is no worse than Gold Freaks. After all, Gon's body is the blood of Dong Freaks. And Gon's mother, always unknown. That could be a pivotal point. Richard thinks it is very possible. In addition, in the Chimeric Ant incident, Netero only brought Molau and Norbu with him, which is also very suspicious. If all the 12 hunter branches are shot, it will not be so troublesome to kill the Chimeric Ants. And the use of bombs is not necessary. Detonating them by themselves can find a more suitable way. In itself there are countless possibilities. It's not a simple level of strength or weakness. The head of the chameleon division is so much weaker than Yuppie, but the chameleon's Nen is still useful to Yuppie. Richard stopped. There is no need to think about this now. What I have to do is to improve my strength and find the source of my Nen. After the hunter exam is over, I will go to the Dark Sonata. Sudden. There was a sound of footsteps. Richard turned back. A figure came this way. Gitaracker, also known as Il Fan. Seeing Richard, Ilmi frowned, quickly looked away, and walked to the side. Look up and look at the night sky. There is only a trace of the moon tonight. The endless night is like a curtain, and countless stars are scattered on the curtain. Ilmi hesitated and turned to Richard. Have we met before? Richard smiled. Your Excellency is wrong, I have never met Your Excellency. Ilmi nodded and looked up at the night sky again. Asterisk. Chapter 43. Richard went to the room. Ilmi stared at Richard's disappearing back, and his eyes flickered. Similar to that person. However, it shouldn't be the same. That's just a rookie who has just mastered Nen for a while. And this, even I am not sure I can take it. Richard turned the corner. A figure just came over. The two stopped at the same time. Richard looked at the visitor. Hisoka. A flash of excitement flashed in Hisoka's eyes, but he quickly suppressed it. Dark Sonata, I will find it. As long as you find it, I will fulfill the promise and go to the Sky Arena to fight with you. Very good. Richard glanced at Hisoka's back and looked away. Hisoka must have gone to Ilmi. There is no doubt about that. The two have known each other before and have established a good friendship. For the Zodiac family, friendship is a luxury. Except Miji. Because Miji is the trash of the Zodiac family. An existence that has almost been abandoned. Not even Nin. And Kalito, who is younger than Miji, has learned Nin. It can also be seen from here that the Zodiac family attaches great importance to Killua. Ilmi, Killua, Miji, Kalito, Aluka. Aluka doesn't count. This existence is regarded by the Zodiac family as a monster, not a child. Ilmi, Kalito, learned Nin at a very young age. Only Killua and Miji are different. But Killua and Miji are different. Miji was abandoned by the family because he was too wasteful. The Zodiac family simply disliked those network methods that Miji was proud of. Not that it's useless. But compared to the inheritance of the Zodiac family, it is insignificant. Killua, really, the entire Zodiac family, cultivated with all his heart. Silva only showed his father's side when he faced Killua. In addition to the cultivation of the family itself, you can also get the inheritance of the source of the heart. It is equivalent to being cultivated by this world, 2 of the 5 great Nin. The top 5 Nin are currently identifiable, one is Netero, the other is Golden Freaks, the other is Maha, and there are 2 who do not know who they are. Maybe Jed. Richard remembers that in the theatrical version, a strong Nin appeared, claiming to be Netero's natural enemy. Nin is Rakshasa. The opposite of Netero's abilities. Netero is Guanyin, which represents mercy. Jed's Rakshasa represents resentment. But really speaking, Jade's strength is not as good as Netero. There's another one, maybe the owner of the Sky Arena. After all, it stands out from so many masters. Richard guessed. But it's just a guess, no guarantee of accuracy. Richard. Hearing the sound, Richard turned around. Then I saw Bakuer walking towards this side. Good evening. Good evening. Bakuer paused and said, is it convenient to chat? Can. The two sat down on the bench next to them. Richard, the following assessment content may involve some team content. If this is the case, how about our cooperation? Our abilities are matched. You are good at fighting, I am good at archery, and Pensy is good at reconnaissance. If the 3 of us form a team, the competitiveness should be very good. Richard frowned slightly. Do you know the content of the next assessment? Probably guessed a little. Bakuer said, I am not taking the Hunter exam for the first time. Generally speaking, the purpose of the Hunter exam is to examine the comprehensive abilities of candidates. The previous 2 tests tested our endurance, physical strength, courage, and observation. Then the next thing to be tested is teamwork and intelligence capabilities. Single-player combat will be placed at the end. Richard nodded. Yes, as long as it is appropriate. Then it's settled. Explosive Kuer's face brightened. Richard went back to the room. For the cooperation of Bakurdi, Richard is casual. This time, Richard passed the Hunter exam with 100% confidence. What Richard cares about is not passing the Hunter exam. Instead, after passing the exam, get Nin's advanced reading skills from the Hunter Association. Round, firm, hard, hidden, flowing. There is nothing wrong with cooperating with Bakuer. Richard doesn't look down on the strength of Kuer. However, compared to others, Bakuer is not bad. It's daybreak. A tall tower appeared in the sight of everyone. Blind Tower. A prison that holds countless criminals. Before getting close, you can feel a strange aura emanating from the tower. The airship stopped at the top of the tower. An examiner stepped forward. Here is the 3rd assessment. And what you have to do is to go from the top of the tower to the bottom of the tower, no matter what method you use. As long as you can reach the bottom of the tower, you are considered qualified. Now, let's get started. After speaking, the examiner returned to the airship. Leave with the airship. A group of candidates stood at the top of the tower and looked at each other. Bakuer walked towards Richard. But at this time, Peng Si, who was next to Richard, suddenly disappeared. The ground slate turns. Richard walked over quickly. But the slate cannot be opened. The passage that Peng Si entered was a 1-person route. Asterisk. Chapter 44. Bakugo was stunned for a moment. Sudden. The slate below moved. Bakuer's figure also disappeared. Richard shook his head. Plans can't keep up with changes. Richard knows a little about the situation of the squatting tower, and there will be some passages at the top. It could be multiple people, it could be single. What the candidates have to do is to pass through this channel. In the channel, the examiner set up various levels. Richard glanced aside. A candidate chose to climb the rock and wanted to go down from the outside. But immediately a group of monsters struck. The candidates were directly killed by monsters. There are fewer and fewer people on the platform. Choose any one you want. Anyway, no matter what it is, I pass, and the problem is basically not big. Richard found a moving slate. Crack. Slate moves. Richard's figure just fell. A secret room. The door didn't open. Near the door, there is a round table. On the top of the round table, there are 5 bracelets. Richard frowned. The passage for 5 people, shouldn't this be the one that Gon and Killua went through in the original book? This is really unexpected. Richard wasn't going to have too much contact with them. Except Kurapika. But not because of Kurapika, but because of the partner Kurapika will meet in the future, Melody. Richard wanted to get information about the Dark Sonata from the Melody. Pfft. The 4 figures fell one after another. Killua, Gon, Leorio, Kurapika. Richard. Leorio got nervous when he saw Richard. Richard looked at the 4. It seems that the 5 of us are going to walk this passage together. Don't waste time, let's get through the level now. Richard took out a bracelet. Put on your bracelets. Leorio is nervous, Kurapika is slightly better. Gon and Killua didn't care too much. Killua doesn't know the danger from Richard's body. After all, the current Killua has not learned Nen, and can only perceive those ordinary breaths. And Gon, character is like that. The rule is that the minority obey the majority. But this rule is useless. After all, the 4 of you are together. But if you make the wrong choice and implicate me, then you should know what the consequences will be. The timer has started. Let's go. Richard opened the door. Leorio came to the end of the line. Gon hesitated. Richard. Did you and Hisoka know each other before? Richard glanced at Gon. Why do you ask? The other day, I saw that you and Hisoka greeted on the airship. It seems that you have known each other before, and they seem to be fine. Are you friends? A good relationship? Richard frowned. Where does this come from? Hisoka's excited eyes? It was just the pervert's excitement when he saw his opponent. It doesn't count. Richard said, you care about Hisoka. Yes. Gon recalled what happened at the Deceiver's Den. That near-death feeling. Richard, can you tell me, Hisoka, how strong is he? About 100 times your current level. Gon's pupil shrank. But for a split second, Gon's eyes lit up again and he clenched his fists. Am I still that far? Killua next to him was a little unconvinced. Richard, you are exaggerating, Hisoka is strong, but definitely not 100 times as strong as Gon. If you say no, then there is no. Richard glanced at Killua. Now you, and Hisoka are not from the same world at all, so it's really not interesting to compare them like this. It is not impossible to defeat Nen with ordinary people. But it's hard. Moreover, Hisoka is among the Nen, they are all outstanding and can be ranked in the forefront. Richard judged Hisoka as a B grade. Even Gon who passed the hunter exam and Gon who opened the door of the Zodiac family are not the opponents of those E-ranked Nen, let alone now. Without learning to entangle and train, Gon can't even pass the Gido level. Not the same world. Killua frowned. What's the meaning? Literally, you'll find out later. Gon looked up at Richard. Then Richard, are you from that world? Yes. Richard stopped. The first level is here, let's go through it. What appeared in front of the 5 people was a door. There is a display on the door. The above is a multiple choice question. Don't choose first, unify the answers before choosing, and follow your own ideas. Leorio, who was ready to press down, abruptly withdrew his hand. I choose A. A. I choose B. A. Richard glanced at the 4 and said, then choose A according to the rule that the minority obeys the majority. Smooth all the way. A team can have multiple opinions, but only one voice. Like Phantom Troupe. Only Crollo has the absolute right to decide. The rest, are subject to Crollo. This is a qualified team. When the opinions of the team cannot be unified, then the team is equivalent to exist in name only. In the original book, the teammates of the Gone Four were not Richard, but Tonpa. So much time was wasted because of Tonpa's troubles. Now there is no such interference factor. Until a floating platform. Opposite, sit 5 people. Prisoner dress up. Asterisk. Chapter 45. Crack. The shackles on the prisoner's hands were released. It's finally time for you. 4 prisoners got up, one still sitting in the corner. A sound came from the loudspeaker in the corner. Richard looked at the 4 of Gone. 1-on-1, this means that the 5 of us, as long as we win more than 3 games, we will pass the test. If possible, try to win. After all, it's a matter of time. We decide the order, and they decide the candidates. In other words, the 2 sides of the battle are almost all decided by them, even including most of the rules of the game. Does anyone want to come first? Richard doesn't want to come first. The plot here is different from the original. Once he really lost, Richard had to use some unconventional means. Richard didn't want to reveal his true strength right now. Let me do it. Kurapika raised her hand. It is good. A slate stretched over. A bald prisoner came out on the opposite side, and when he saw Kurapika, he grinned. I suggest, let's fight to the death, the living, and win this test. As soon as these words fell, the expressions of the 3 of Gone changed. Kurapika's pupils shrank slightly. However, it soon became firm. He took out his weapon from behind. Then let's fight to the death. Leorio was a little nervous. Can you win? The odds of winning are great. Richard said. The strength of this prisoner is not strong. On the surface, it looks muscular, but the real strength, according to Richard's estimation, is no stronger than Glaya, has been abandoned, and Kurapika, for revenge, has undergone hard training. Really? As expected by Richard. The bald prisoner is no match for Kurapika. Kurapika's offensive became more and more fierce. Boom. One hit, hitting the back of the neck of the bald prisoner. The prisoner of light fell to the ground. A female prisoner stood up. We haven't lost yet. The rule you set is to fight to the death. Only when one side dies can the winner be decided. So, young candidate, are you going to kill him? Do you really want to end an innocent life? The woman stared at Kurapika and licked her lips. Kureka. Kurapika bowed her head and was silent for a long time. Look up. I remember that the rules of this death match were proposed by him, right? Then why am I bound by this rule? Kurapika suddenly came to the bald prisoner. He grabbed the bald prisoner's collar and took the bald prisoner to the edge of the platform. Below, bottomless. Since he is yours, then you are qualified to surrender for him. Either, I will kill him now and throw him from here, or you will surrender. How do you choose? Richard's eyes lit up slightly. This way of breaking the game is okay. If Kurapika voluntarily admits defeat because of this rule, Richard will look down on Kurapika. Such a person is not even qualified for revenge. Hesitantly, it was the woman's turn. Kurapika released a finger. 3. 2. Stop, we admit defeat. Kurapika threw the bald head back to the platform, and a prisoner stepped forward and helped the bald prisoner back. Second match, who's on? Let me do it. Gon raised his hand. Opposite is a thin young man. Quick fight. The thin young man looked at Gon and said, in this competition where we don't fight, let's play a game. I have 2 candles in my hand, let's choose one each. Whoever extinguishes the candle first will lose. How about it? How about choosing the minority to the majority? Richard glanced at the Killua trio. Choose, don't waste time. There's no need to think too much, because the key to winning or losing is not the candle. Killua and Kurapika both seemed to have thought of something. I see. Leorio didn't think about it clearly, but it didn't affect the overall situation. Long. The thin young man smiled and threw the long candle over. The 2 ignited separately. In any case, the winner of this game will be Gon. Because the difference in strength between the 2 is too great. Even if the other party did tricks in the candle, it was not just the candle itself that affected the candle. In factors other than candles, the opponent has no advantage at all. Call. When the candle in Gon's hand burned violently, Gon put down the candle in his hand and extinguished the candle in the other's hand. Second game, win. Suddenly, in the cell, the figure in the corner stood up. Losing 2 games in a row, you are really trash. The other 4 quickly avoided the man. Obviously, this person is very afraid. Remove the hood. A somewhat sloppy middle-aged man appeared in front of everyone. This is what Richard expected. The strongest among the opponents. Losing 2 games in a row made this person have to come out early. A real murderer. There were dozens of people who died in his hands, and all of them used extremely brutal methods. It can be said that he is a very vicious person. However, that's just for ordinary people. The real strong, even those who are not nin, will not be afraid. Who wants to go? Leorio took a step back subconsciously. That leaves only Killua and Richard. Asterisk. Chapter 46. Killua took a step back. Because Killua wanted to see what kind of means Richard would come up with. Let Leorio be afraid to that extent. Even after seeing Hisoka and some other strong people, they still stubbornly believe that Richard's danger is the highest among all the candidates. This made Killua a little interested. Then I'll come. Suddenly, Leorio recalled something, looked at Richard, and gritted his teeth. Richard, be careful. This is a famous murderer. The number of people who died in his hands reached more than 100. The methods were extremely cruel. Moreover, he killed these people with his bare hands. Gon, Kurapika, got nervous when Leorio did this. Killua glanced at Leorio. Looking back at Richard. Leorio's remarks made Killua a little disappointed in Leorio's judgment that Richard was more dangerous than Hisoka. This murderer, in Killua's view, was not strong at all. Don't worry, it's fine. The middle-aged looked at Richard, his eyes indifferent. Young man, it was your bad luck when you met me. Because, as my opponent, there can only be one result, and that is death. My whole body will be torn apart by me. Richard nodded. Yeah, that's really hard work for you. What? It's very hard to tear human flesh into pieces. No, I'm enjoying it. The middle-aged frowned. You are not afraid. Why be afraid? Richard smiled and said, you don't have the ability to threaten me, let's start, don't waste your time. Boy. The middle-aged face sank. The muscles of the whole body bulged. I will kill you. Wail, cry. This is your destiny. But the next moment, the middle-aged suddenly felt that something was wrong. His fist failed. Breathing became so difficult. Looking down, I saw Richard's hand was stuck in his throat. Richard carried the middle-aged in this way, step by step, to the edge of the platform. As a person, I don't like to be stained with blood. Also, this method of death can make you live more than 10 seconds. Don't thank me too much. Richard let go. The middle-aged figure fell involuntarily. Do not. The desperate voice of the middle-aged man sounded. Boom. A very dull echo sounded. Killua was a little disappointed. Middle-aged is too weak, and none of Richard's methods can be forced out. Leorio took a step back subconsciously. Crack. A stone door opened on the opposite side. Let's go. Richard was at the forefront. The atmosphere of the team has changed a little bit. Killua and Gon are nothing. But Kurapika and Leorio, involuntarily, would stay away from Richard. 5 forks appeared in front of 5 people. Richard frowned slightly. This situation, and what Richard knew, was different. Because it wasn't delayed that much time, the level has changed. Richard went to one of them. Since there are 5 bifurcations, it means that we should separate here. See you downstairs. Richard walked in. Leorio was relieved to see Richard disappear. Killua glanced at Leorio and said, this is nothing, right? Didn't Kurapika do something similar just now? But, that's different, the one just now, but the dismembering hand, Johnny. Killua shook his head and said, the prisoner is not strong, I can do it to that extent, it's not a difficult task. Gon, can you do it too? Gon hesitated, then nodded. I should be a little stronger than that prisoner. Speaking of which, Leorio, why are you so afraid of Richard? What have you seen before? Killua looked at Leorio curiously. After all, from the hunter exam, Richard didn't appear to be that scary. Gon, Kurapika, stared at Leorio with equal curiosity. Leorio gritted his teeth. Since you all want to know, then I'll tell you. However, you must not spread it out, let alone tell you what I told you. That was a year ago. Richard was injured and I opened a clinic. Some people go after Richard. It's a gangster. As soon as those people walked into my clinic, they saw Richard took out a recorder and played it, and then the gangsters went crazy, self-mutilating, killing each other. Like crazy. Can you imagine such a method? That's why, after seeing Hisoka and so many candidates, I still think Richard is the most dangerous one. That ability is too weird. Kurapika's pupils shrank slightly. You can control the life and death of others just through your voice. Can it really be done? Killua frowned. Could it be that it was just a pretense, that Richard really had some kind of poison, and the recorder was just a cover? No. Leorio shook his head and said, such a cover-up is meaningless. If it's just sound, it can affect this level. I've never seen it before. It's really strange. Killua said, but there are many strange things in this world, maybe it's a special instrument. Richard went down the stairs, step by step. This is a spiral staircase. Below is an empty secret room. A figure, sitting cross-legged on the ground. Hearing footsteps, opened his eyes. I waited for you a long time. However, when he saw Richard, the man was stunned for a moment. Aren't you Hisoka? Asterisk. Chapter 47. Are you Richard? I know you are Hisoka's friend, don't deny it. This hunter exam, I saw the communication between you and Hisoka with my own eyes. Since you're here, don't leave. Let me practice with you before I kill Hisoka. Richard. How did I become Hisoka's friend? First was misunderstood by Killua, and now this person is also misunderstood. However, after hearing the other party's words and adding the other party's image, Richard suddenly knew the other party's identity. One of the examiners for last year's hunter exam. Seriously injured due to being attacked by Hisoka. This time, I practiced new tricks, thinking that I would be Hisoka's opponent and come for revenge. Richard didn't expect that this person would meet him. I'm not Hisoka's friend. The young man's face sank. I said, don't deny it, what I saw with my own eyes could not be wrong, Hisoka's friend. I didn't expect to be a person like you, and even dare not admit the identity of a friend. However, rubbish like Hisoka deserves such a friend. Come on, I've waited a long time for this day. The young man stood up and took out 2 whirling daggers in his hands. This is the trick I practiced for killing Hisoka. You are Hisoka's friend, so come and try this trick for Hisoka. You won't be disappointed for sure. I'm going to cut the flesh off of you piece by piece. Suddenly, the young man threw the whirling dagger in his hand to the front. The whirling dagger turned in mid-air. Extremely fast. The trajectory is indistinct. Richard dodged the attack of the youth. Aren't you afraid of being seen by other examiners? This is public revenge. The young man sneered. Of course not, I'm no longer an examiner, and this is a place I deliberately arranged. There is no surveillance here. No matter what I do here, no one will find out. No surveillance. Of course, so, no matter how much you ask for help, even if you admit defeat, no one will know. Richard's expression calmed down. Then that's fine. It is good. Yes. Richard looked at the young man and said, because of this, I don't need to have restrictions, but I can use any means I know, which made me worry for nothing. What do you mean? The youth frowned. It doesn't make any sense. I was just thinking about whether killing you and using means I didn't intend to use would cause me trouble, but since there is no monitoring, there is no need to worry. The young man's heart skipped a beat. Richard moved. Picture of greed. Picture scroll maze. Under Richard's control, the picture scroll keeps getting longer, bigger, wider, and wrapping around, until the whole space is filled, and Richard stops. The youth is trapped in the picture scroll maze. What is this? Painting. A mere painting can stop me. The young man stabbed the dagger in his hand fiercely. But the screen is not broken. Not only is it not broken, but there is no trace at all. The young man's eyes suddenly widened. Why? A figure appeared behind the bursting youth. It's Johnson's idea of death. A whip was materialized. Snapped. The young man staggered and leaned forward. Richard looked at the young man through the gap in the painting. Congeal. There is a lingering breath. This guy is an. However, not the very strong kind. Because it's too weak, it's too easy to be killed by Hisoka, so you can't even tell from the original plot whether it's an or not. From the way it operates the whirling dagger, it's an emitter. But in the Phantom Troupe, Shulnark, who is also an emitter, is too far behind. Even Zodiac's housekeeper, Wutong can't compare. What's more, even Shulnark of Phantom Troupe is no match for Richard now. It's almost over. Another figure appeared. Lizard's thought of death. As one of the members of the Yin Beast, the strength of the lizard, according to Richard's judgment, can be ranked in the forefront of the Yin Beast, and after becoming the thought of death, it will go further. Boom! The lizard slammed into the youth. The young man flew out. The dagger slashed at the lizard, but it had no effect. Only the sound of metal crashing came out. The young man's expression became frightened. What exactly is this? If you have the ability to withdraw this painting, let's face it face to face. The youth growled. Of course not, Richard. This isn't a worthy opponent. Almost. Richard thought for a moment. Both Johnson's and Lizard's thoughts of death disappeared. The young man's eyes widened and he looked around. And this observation, the young man's line of sight, involuntarily, looked at the painting in the picture scroll. There seems to be a strange power that attracts the young man's attention. Young people are caught up in it. His eyes gradually became dazed. A lot. It's all mine. It's all mine. Don't rob me of anyone. It's all mine. The young man's consciousness gradually collapsed. Sink into greed, unable to extricate themselves. The perception of the outside world is almost non-existent. Johnson's thought of death reappeared. An axe was materialized. Boom! An axe fell. The youth fell heavily. Blood flowed out, dyeing the entire ground red. Richard retracted the scroll. Richard! A mass of thoughts of death was born from the youth. I am going to kill you. I must kill you. And at this time, a powerful attraction emerged from the scroll. Next moment, the young man's thought of death was sucked into the picture scroll. There was a sound of footsteps upstairs. Richard's thoughts moved, and the picture scroll disappeared. Asterisk. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel so you are notified of future uploads. You can find the next parts in the playlist visible on the screen or on my channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.